Fire roars through a room stacked with sword racks. Flames pour through a doorway at the far end. Somewhere inside it, a blonde boy grits his teeth, half his face lit orange, half swallowed by shadow. His blade streaks white hot through the smoke, trailing light behind the swing. Behind him, red eyes catch the firelight and smirk. His mouth cracks open, teeth bared, fire roaring under his jaw. A raw red shout burns across the frame, half scream, half curse. Light shatters right at his teeth, sharp as breaking glass. Because that's not a sword he's swinging anymore, it's a sword he's chewing. Around him, fire swallows the whole room, one broken shard of blade falling through the flames. On a dark wall, an old portrait hangs, a bearded man's fist locked around a sword hilt, words carved beneath it, addressed straight to one name, Arhan. So what turns a farm boy into someone who chews swords for breakfast? Long before that fire, his father knelt beside young Arhan and talked about the family name 200 years back when the caravans ruled unrivaled. The old man closes young Arhan's hands around an ornate hilt, grips his shoulder and says it plain, "You're the one who will take over, head of the caravan family, whether he wants it or not." In the story, a knight once knelt before a girl by a window. He swore the family would stand tall again, protectors of this land. Meanwhile, that's the village the sunset lights up. Rooftops, mountains, a wheat field waking under open sky. Turns out Arhan cuts wheat with an actual sword, smirking, sweat on his brow. Somebody has to live off the family's fabricated glory, he figures, after all. Of course he stands upright, surveying the field, while two hooded farmhands bend low behind him, grumbling that a real caravan shouldn't be doing this. "Can I stack these over there?" one calls out. "Yes, young master," comes the same chipper answer. Honestly, he wipes off the sweat and admits the doubt out loud. His father's stories have too many holes, starting with that old portrait on the wall. A stern bearded face, a jeweled dagger, a scar cut clean across the forehead. Nice detail for a made-up ancestor. Naturally, he goes looking for proof, history books piled under a starry sky. If the family really once ruled, shouldn't at least one book say so? He falls asleep face down on the desk and wakes up stretching, no closer to an answer. In every record in the kingdom, the ancestor's name, Liam Caravan, doesn't turn up, not once. So he draws his own conclusion. Standing alone by an empty throne overlooking the mountains, he decides the whole legend is a lie, built to give the next generation some pride. Well, snack time interrupts the philosophy. A villager laughs, calling everyone in before the food goes cold, and the whole crew waves back grinning. Arhan just stares off at the mountains, while behind him, villagers cough on something. "Geez," he mutters. He grins, hands on hips, staring up at the bright sky. Who cares if the caravans aren't some great family anymore, he thinks. A cloak snaps through the wind, scattering leaves, carrying the answer with it. That's the caravan he wants. Arhan sprints through the fields, dust kicking up behind him. The village waves him off toward the market road. Is this the day he finally becomes someone? He's already gone. Meanwhile, blood pools across wet sand somewhere behind him. Calm water rippling through the stain, just the way it is now. A body drops from the sky, upside down, blood misting off a wheat stalk as it falls. One drop hits still water, and the ripples spread outward. So Arhan waves off the last of the harvest crew. He's headed to market before dark, he calls out, already late. He brags he knows everything already, that he's the future lord of this place. Wind rakes through his hair as he grins and rides into the sunset. He's not looking back. How hard can one errand be? Now, sunset settles over the wheat fields as two servants trade compliments about their young master back home. He's nothing like the other petty nobles, one says, grinning at the thought. Before the light goes, let's finish the last of the work, the other adds, already turning back to the fields. The servant is still mid-sentence, still smiling, still talking about today's meeting with the Lord. Then a slash opens across his face. No warning. He doesn't even finish the word day. Somewhere close, a woman reaches out and screams. Blood sprays across a nearby nun's face, marks tearing the air behind her. She freezes, blinking through the red, not understanding what she's just seen. Not yet. A lone figure stands in the wheat, back turned, sword loose at his side under a blood-red sky. He starts walking, slow and deliberate, straight toward where the servants just died. Nothing stops him. "Who are you?" a bald villager stammers, planting himself in the swordsman's path. He never gets an answer. He's already falling backward into the wheat, struck down before the question even lands. Turns out he's not done. The swordsman stands over the wreckage, hair whipping in the wind, blade glinting at his side. He murmurs something about this territory, looking out over the land like he already owns it. His hand tightens around an ornate, cross-hilted sword, the one thing here that matters to him. Red light cracks across skin, again and again, wherever the blade lands. A roar tears through the blood-red sky behind him. His face sits half in shadow, one eye visible, and it shows nothing at all. A curved blade catches the orange light, fresh blood still beaded on the edge. He stands amid the ruins now, scythe-like weapon in hand, staring up at the sky. Must be erased, he says, nothing more. Rain starts falling from a churning dark sky. A child's teddy bear drops through the air and lands beside a stray apple on the ground. All that's left where something hit is a scorched, foggy crater. Arhan stops cold. Two apples lie in the dirt, one scratched clean through with an X. His own voice cracks before he even means to speak. Everyone He stumbles out onto a road already slick with blood, bodies scattered in the dark. One man stares up at nothing, mouth frozen around a scream. Right behind Arhan, something vast and skeletal seems to hang in the air. Dead. That's the only word it needs. Arhan can't move. What is Butler about to hide from him? Butler grabs him first, hauling his head hard against his chest. "Don't look, young master," he begs, already crying himself. Now Butler lifts a wounded servant from the blood. The man can barely believe it's really him. A severed hand lies forgotten just beside them. Even Butler's grip on what's real starts to slip. Tears mix with the blood already on his face. Someone screams that the villagers, all of them, are gone too. Another figure just shakes, hair gripped in both fists. Whatever's coming, it's already here. Meanwhile, word moves through the dying fields. The caravans are marked for erasure. A masked swordsman watches it all without blinking. His blade drops, and one more life ends before the sound even catches up. A young man, a woman, an old grandmother. They run for the tree line, sure they can outlast this. Turns out, they can't. The masked man's already there, and a boy's scream tears through the smoke. Buildings shatter under the weight of his sword, wood and stone giving way like paper. One more clean cut, and even the wreckage stops moving. He barely raises his voice over the ruin. "I am merely following orders," he says, calm as ever. Not his war. Somewhere close, Butler holds him tight and covers his eyes again. He chokes out that it's gone, just like that. Behind them, the whole town keeps burning through the night. A swordmaster. That's the only name anyone has for it. Meanwhile, at the family manor, the full moon hangs quiet over the towers like nothing happened yet. Inside, the door stands wide open, empty. Now two strangers walk straight through the blood-soaked halls, stepping over body after body like it means nothing. A woman in a long coat, a gray-haired man beside her. Arhan finds himself standing over one more body, and he just stares, saying nothing. Deep gashes cut clean through every corpse in the hall. Off to the side, a young woman clutches her own head, crying and smiling at the same time. A strange pink glow flickers around her, like something in her just cracked open. Arhan cries out, and a strange purple light flickers just above him. What is that? Through his tears, he reaches a hand out, and somewhere close, a voice finally calls his name. A servant stumbles through the wrecked hall, one hand pressed to her collar. Something about her own mother, gasped out in shock. Then she sees him. She screams his name and runs, hair flying. She grabs Arhan by the shoulder and won't let go. A girl clings to his shirt, crying, ash and embers drifting past them both. She kneels in the blood on the floor and asks the only question left. Why? Arhan stares straight ahead. Why does it feel like it's still happening? His fists clench, knuckles white, blood already drying on his sleeves. Down the hall, another body lies crumpled by a doorway. Red light spills in. Blood streaks the window above him, marking the whole wall. Turns out he has a name, a pale-haired swordmaster. This is the man who erased half the caravan lands in one blink. Strangely, he spares Arhan's parents, leaving just a warning. 1 month, then he returns. The floor is a mess of broken blade, shattered mid-fight. Someone here didn't go down without swinging back. At sunset, the swordmaster raises his glowing blade and spells out the deal. Leave this place before the month's up, or die. Well, not everyone gets that month. Somewhere else in the dark, a man shields a woman with his own body. A blade finds him anyway. He screams the same question into the rain. Why? The swordmaster's shadow falls over them and no answer ever comes. He starts to answer, "I am merely, then nothing." He leaves the words hanging and walks off. The rooftop's already rubble behind him. It's the only explanation anyone ever gets. Meanwhile, a cart of hooded travelers rolls on at dusk. Refugees who got the choice to run. Arhan's family never did. Even the offer of a month, in the end, wasn't a real choice at all. So, one bleeding knight still manages a boast. He hunted the evil dragon once, or so he says. He calls himself the Iron-Blooded. He's still swearing the oath upside down and dying when the words just cut off. Now the scene shifts to a forest at night. His mother finds him there and says his name. Gentle, like nothing outside these trees exists. She wraps a cloak around his shoulders. The butler has a carriage ready, she tells him. He has to leave the territory with him, go as far as he can. Her voice turns cold. The Lord won't be leaving this place. Worse, she says, the old bedtime stories were never true. The righteous watchers, the invincible guardians, none of it. It's the same lie fed to 2 children, generations back, dressed up as history. So is any of it ever real? Arhan grips his own collar and cries, and for once nobody tells him to stop. She leans down close, voice barely above a whisper, and asks for one promise before anything else. Never pick up a sword again. Survive, she tells him, no matter what it takes. Don't even think about revenge. Just live your own life, she says, tears already falling. A servant's voice cuts through the trees. The carriage is ready, so he grabs at her sleeve, refusing to let go, while a servant comes running up behind them. She orders the butler to get Arhan far away before that man arrives. The old man nods, pulls the crying boy back by force, his own face wet with tears. His mother stands alone in the trees, listening to that scream fade, one tear caught beneath her eye. The butler keeps pulling him on, arm outstretched behind him the whole way. His wrist goes raw in the old man's grip, and he's still crying for her. Now a shape steps out of the dark toward her, one huge hand reaching for her alone. She sinks to her knees and gets out 4 last words. I love you, my child. Then something blade-shaped slashes past, cutting the air right where she knelt. Meanwhile, his father is already bleeding out against the bookshelves, blood streaked across the wood. She holds him from behind, quiet, and tells him to stop suffering alone. At least she says they had this, right at the very end. The butler drives the wagon into the rain, lantern swaying, refugees huddled in beside them. He tells himself the lord and lady would have wanted this. Then somewhere behind him, a voice cries out for the young master. Now no matter how he turns it over, he can't just run. He won't leave them both to die alone. Can he actually save them both? He turns and sprints back into the storm, wind tearing at his cloak. The manor's crest flag rises out of the rain ahead. He's almost there. Then Hans sees him. Rope bites into his wrists. A single beam of light finds him tied in the dark, wide-eyed and alone. A blade hangs over him, its edge reflected in his own eye. Is this how it ends? Blood already hangs suspended in the air between them. His face is bloodied and cut open, and somehow, despite it all, he's still smiling. Above the manor, something hangs from the tower like a second flag, smoke drifting past it. It hangs dark against a blood-red sky. Whoever put it there isn't impressed. How foolish, the voice says, and nothing more. Smoke drifts past the manor's grand doors, and Carlos stands over what's left of Arhan's mother. Arhan comes running out of the dark anyway. He's come all this way, Carlos tells him, just to die. Carlos leans down, one eye glowing red under his hood. I thought I showed you mercy, he says. Then he moves. The blade lands and Arhan screams, blue eyes blown wide with pain. Arhan's eyes land on her as he falls. Her cheek is torn open, blood tracing down her neck. She isn't moving. Something in him snaps. Arhan grabs his weapon and screams a vow at the man who did this. For 1 second, it looks like he might actually land the hit. Well, he doesn't. Carlos's blade answers first, and blood sprays across the doorstep. Arhan crumples in the sunset light, small and still gripping his broken blade. Now he's on the ground gasping, one hand clamped around his throat, coughing through the pain. Somehow, he's still breathing. Carlos looks down at the boy kneeling in his own blood. You haven't turned 18 yet, he says. Count yourself lucky, and he doesn't mean it kindly. There's a warning too. Carry on that bloodline, Carlos says, and he'll be found and finished. Arhan shakes, teeth clenched, saying nothing back. Carlos turns and walks off, eyes glowing a cold pink under the dawn sky. So, somewhere over the ashes, a thought lingers that isn't Arhan's own. The caravan should vanish like this, then why leave the last one breathing? The memory jumps back to some older night, one that keeps repeating. A body falls, a woman's already down, and a masked killer crouches over her, blood dripping from his grin. He mocks her, calls her pathetic, leans in close. A young man catches her instead, crying, holding her limp hand like it's the only thing left. Someone carries her away into the light, small and distant against the sky. That day, a caption calls it. Turns out it left something behind too. A sword, blue, glowing, waiting. Now, a year on, alone in the ruined hall, Arhan catches a light that shouldn't be there. It spills from the doorway, and something above his head starts to glow. What is that? An old man forms out of the light itself, bearded, robed in fur. He steps out of the blue like he's stepping out of a painting. Arhan turns to face him, back straight, blonde hair burning silver-white under the glow. My descendant. The words drift out of the blue mist, and the boy alone in the ruined hall goes still. Now the story circles back to the man everyone fears. Moonlight falls over a mansion hall still streaked with old blood. They call him the Summit, the peerless blade of this age, the sanctified judge who purges the wicked. Carlos, the master of the 10 swords, a genius said to outshine every other swordmaster alive. So that's the title of the monster who stripped him of his soul and his home. What drove that man to butcher his kin, and whose hand pulls the strings from the dark? No amount of answers will bring back the dead. Rows of crosses mark where the caravan family died, a single sword driven into the earth for a headstone. Meanwhile, inside the hall, a door creaks open on light that shouldn't be there. Did that just shatter his mind, or is this actually happening? Sweat drips as he grits his teeth against the power building inside him. A blade forged of blue light hangs in the air, spinning slow and radiating cold fire. Energy wraps around him from behind, swallowing his back in a surging blue current. He snaps at Arhan to show some decorum, stepping out of the storm of light. Lightning crawls over his fur-lined robe as he closes the distance between them. My blood flows in your veins. He drops. Power he isn't ready for tears through him, sparks crawling across the walls before they fade. Now rain slides down the window, the world gone quiet and gray. The ancestor's voice returns, low, saying he's heard the whispers scholars trade about a will like this. His fist trembles. Blue light leaks from between his clenched fingers. The ancestor says he can feel the storm raging inside Arhan's chest. The ghost towers over him, translucent and vast. His mind reels. Is this real? Not a dream? Not some grieving ghost his own head invented? He asks if the man before him is truly the legendary conqueror, Liam Caravan. Why only now? Arhan cries, his voice cracking under a year of buried grief. A pale mark flashes beneath his skin like a brand no blade ever cut. He clenches his jaw in the dark, waiting for an answer he isn't sure he wants. The ancestor raises an arm, light gathering at his fingertips, ready at last to answer. So here's his answer. He required proof of Arhan's resolve, he explains. Revenge poisons the soul, he warns, and no one should touch it without the will to burn everything. Turns out, for a full year, he's been Arhan's silent watcher. What the ghost watches is a boy with almost no talent, drilling alone against a wall of shattered posts. Day after day, the blade tears his palms raw. He never once lets go. Kneeling with torn hands, he raises the glowing blade anyway. That's the will the ghost witnesses, he says. Winds of despair can't snuff it out. Now, in the present hall, the ghost finally explains why he's come. Arhan's gaze, he says, has ripened into exactly the malice he needed. His patience has finally broken, he says, ever since they slaughtered his people. Arhan feels that same hunger rising in his own chest, a craving to tear them apart limb from limb. Honestly, this is where the old ghost turns cold as stone. Arhan already knows the truth, yet fights like a madman anyway. No matter how many decades alone, you will never touch him, the ghost warns. A swordmaster, the tale says, is a divine anomaly beyond the human ceiling. Even prodigies, he says, can't grasp that realm. On that peak stands one titan no one else can touch. Even in his own era of constant slaughter, the ghost says almost no one could match this man. Nobody alive today has the strength to end him. Meanwhile, the years keep passing. His shadow, the tale warns, only grows longer and darker. Is his justice even possible? Arhan wonders, staring at that gap between them. Must he keep standing by while a monster gets worshipped as a savior? He refuses to stay a helpless spectator again. From this moment, the ghost tells him his destiny changes course. Well, an armored shade cradles a child before the family's banner, swearing to become his foundation. That's the purpose, so the last caravan can execute that murderer himself. Wind sweeps past him, he says nothing, only waits. A blade glows before him, ornate, ancient, humming with old power. This road, the legend says, is paved only for those of their blood. Then the ancestor draws himself up and shouts the command plain. Devour my sword. So Arhan freezes, eyes wide, as the old man names him heir to the lineage of steel. Somewhere close, a rack of spears rattles in the dark. Then flame catches the wall and starts to spread. Arhan's eyes reflect the blaze, wide and unblinking. His jaw locks, blood crusting the scrape on his brow. He plants himself in front of the glowing blade and grips the hilt. It answers white hot in his fist. Now the ghost has a hand on his shoulder, calling himself the half-blood smith who started all this. Eat a blade whole, he says, and you inherit everything its dead master ever was. Memory, skill, secret arts. So 3 silhouettes once stood over that very sword. One an elder with a scarred stare, one gripping a hilt marked in red. From that same fire grew a whole dynasty of swordmasters. His mind flashes to the dwarves, metal's old masters, if anyone ever was. Doubt's a luxury he can't afford, not with results the only truth left to him. Tell me, he grits out, how do I devour the steel? His eye narrows, his grip tightens, the hilt floods gold with light. He grinds the blade between his teeth and swallows. Is this real, he wonders, or just the last fever dream of a broken mind? Well, what if a demon is leading him on? Doesn't matter if there's even a heartbeat's chance he's taking it. He screams it into the fire. I will do it, the power answers, shattering light across his face. Now blades rain down through fire and sparks. A burning hand claws up out of the flame. Turns out it's Arhan's own hand, his whole body cracking with light as it burns from inside. He screams himself hoarse, then stands. A silhouette swallowed by fire, sword raised. For a second it feels like victory. Then something cuts back, slashing the floor to sparks. So the blast throws him clean off his feet, spinning through cracking light. His sword spins free of his hand as he screams himself raw. Blood on his hands. One eye wide open, staring at nothing. For a heartbeat, he's somewhere else. A field of the dead, a bloodied face he won't name. A vow rises through him anyway, never forget. His mother's face flickers behind his eyes again, still and gone. He grips the sword tighter, jaw locked. Then the memory hits like a fist, and a blade of light rips clean through him. Steel and fire, over and over. Now he plants himself in the smoking wreckage and finds his voice again. Even if it costs him every scrap of his humanity, he will see this through. Teeth bared, hand clawing at his own chest, he forces the words out. The swordmaster who tears his heart out. That is what he chooses to become. Light tears across his vision, then nothing. The fire, the vow, all of it goes dark. Meanwhile, morning settles over the manor roof, quiet. Birds calling like nothing happened. But somewhere in his sleep, he's still screaming through last night's fire. His hand snaps to grip a hilt that isn't there. Then his eyes snap open for real. I'm alive, he breathes and means it. Turns out he's fine, not a scratch on him. Honestly, that pain of swallowing red-hot iron had felt real enough to leave scars. Was any of it even real? Part of him hoped last night was only a fever dream. Then he looks down. Just the broken hilt of a sword sits in his palm, blade gone. He sits back and reaches into a thread of blue mist curling up from the boards. Well, even among his bloodline, the ancestor says, plenty gave up before him. They couldn't stand the burning agony, and it broke every one of them. Naturally, the old ghost wants to know if he believes him now. Every legend his father told about the caravans is true, and and he's no hallucination. Arhan can't answer, mouth open, silent. Then a pale hand reaches for him, and a name cuts through the quiet. Arhan Caravan. The spirit hovers above the cracked, frost-white floor, robe hem drifting. Of course he grins right before dropping bad news, the old showman he's always been. Yes, master, he says, dropping to one knee without question. A beat later, he flinches back, startled by something in the old man's face. The ghost looms over him, the broken hilt lying on the floor between them. Whatever happens next, it starts with that ruined blade. So, to put it simply, the voice explains through the swirling blue light. In his current state, he can't fully process the sword's essence. Arhan's mouth falls open? Not this too? His stomach drops all over again. He kneels in the dim hall, the translucent old swordsman looming above, blade sheathed at his hip. Whatever the ancestor has planned, Arhan isn't getting up until he hears it. Arhan accepts it without a fight. His ancestor sounds almost relieved that another path still remains. Another path? So he thinks it through out loud. He can't process this power now. Then what does that leave him? One answer, he decides. Find food and grow into it later. His smirk bears a flash of fang. His ancestor starts to answer, and the words dissolve into a low, knowing laugh. Somewhere in the dark, a grin spreads too wide to be comforting. Turns out he likes his meals old. The more battle-worn the blade, the better it tastes to him. He orders Arhan to lead him to a junkyard full of the dead. The place waits under a bleeding sunset, a wasteland stitched together from thousands of broken swords. Of course, the ancestor insists on picking the meal himself. Two shapes cross the ruin, one solid, one just a shimmer above the ground. Even the ghost has to admit it. Dark mages would love a place exactly like this one. Now Arhan picks his way through the wreckage on foot, boots crunching over broken steel. His ancestor calls it the best hunting ground for what they need. A good start! His ancestor's voice turns distant. He devoured swords in places just like this one too, at first. Blades still gripped by the fallen, axes caked in old blood, spears snapped clean through. He ate and ate with everything he had back then, to get stronger, to survive. Blade against blade, breaking without end, to guard one spark of life. Somewhere in that ruin, something still catches the light. Some died there that day, and others reached all the way to tomorrow. And yet, someone always leaves something behind. What's still glowing under a graveyard of broken blades? A beam of gold light rises straight out of the wreck. Well, back in the present, his ancestor's voice sharpens. I found it. A pointing hand and an order. Go pick it up, young descendant. A silver hilt glows amid the rubble, sparkling like it's still somehow alive. Your second sword. 1 month later now, two masked scouts creep along a moonlit forest cliff, scanning hard for witnesses. Nothing in the village, and no soul anywhere near the manor either, or so they think. They cross the roofline at a run and dive straight through a shattered window. One guesses the manor was some dark mage's old lab, now abandoned. Honestly, the other isn't buying it. Dead men don't get to complain. 4 looters move through the manor's grand hall, hunting for whoever's hiding here. One of them stops cold. That rich people smell is everywhere, he says. Turns out, no guard ever checks this place. 2 of them kick back and arm wrestle like they already own it. Then one spots proof a noble's daughter lives here, not noticing they're already being watched. Naturally, one of them sniffs a child's dress and smirks, says even the fabric smells expensive. The bald one starts sweating, grinning wider. Play this right and they walk out rich. Honestly, it gets worse. He licks his blade grinning and says there's a portrait somewhere with a girl they could use. A voice cuts through, stop. Every blade in the room snaps toward the sound. For one heartbeat, nobody breathes. What kind of man threatens a child for sport, he wonders. Then he steps into the light, calm as still water. I'd rather we just talked, he says. The intruder squints at the blonde kid in the doorway, wondering if he's the owner's son. One of them expected a girl and scowls when he's wrong. Of course, nobles never learn fear. The bald one sneers, hefting his blade. The bald man raises a blade twice his size. A masked brawler screams in and lunges for the kill. Arhan doesn't even turn around. His eyes just narrow. The attacker's grin curdles into something inhuman right before the strike lands. One counter slash, and he's the one bleeding, not Arhan. Blood sprays across Arhan's face, and he doesn't flinch. You're not visitors, he says quietly, just uninvited. Now the fire changes. A crackling campfire gives way to a roaring forge where his second sword is reborn in the flame. Master, he says, holding up the freshly forged blade. Is this really the sword he's supposed to eat? It looks more like a needle than a sword, he says, turning it in the light. Sparks catch on the thin edge as he grips the hilt. That's natural, the ghost replies. This blade was forged for one purpose only, to open a straight path through an enemy's heart. A blade whips through the air in one clean arc. All edge, all slash. Arhan turns his own thin blade over in his hand and frowns. For thrusting only? So the old man tells him about the woman who once carried this exact blade. 2,000 enemies fell to her, alone, no army behind her. How does a body frailer than his manage that? In the vision, she stands glowing blade low, back straight, like none of it cost her anything. Of course, that skepticism earns him a smack of a stare. Show some respect to the sword. The old man snaps, upside down in Arhan's shocked view. Now the fire takes over. The blade goes back into the flame, hissing, glowing white. What lives inside a sword like this, the old man says, is the weight of somebody's life. Arhan stands stands there in the furnace light, watching the flame do its work. You will gain many things, the vision warns. What will it cost him? It never says. The fire pulls him somewhere else now. Not his manor this time. Someone else's house, someone else's night. Inside it, her parents burn until there's nothing left to recognize. A little girl curls up in the middle of it, arms over her face, and somehow lives. Later, all she can do is whisper. Strangers take her in, a masked man and a hooded figure standing watch, like she might vanish too. Honestly, she barely speaks. Near the shrine, she finally whispers, "I wish I had died with them." After that, she lands in an orphanage that, of all things, worships a goddess of fire. The same flame that burned her family down hangs on their walls as salvation. She stares into her own reflection and can't stand what she sees there, not even now. The flames she's still running from leave in that mirror too. The other orphan kids aren't kind about the scars either. They call the marks a curse, call her a monster, say she's disgusting to look at. None of it is true. Some days the only thought in her head is that she wants to die. She keeps running when the fire finds her even in sleep, night after night. Then one moonlit night in the woods, a blade catches the light ahead of her. Until that day, it says, under the stars, one sharp red eye locks onto that blade. For a moment, the sight is enough to make her forget the hell inside her head. Well, his name turns out to be Hegel. He's an old wandering knight who ended up working the orphanage grounds. She isn't the type to speak first to a man that stern, but this time she does. Mary steps up to Hegel anyway and asks how she can become like him. She wants to learn what he knows. She tells him, fists tight on her own sleeves. Well, Hegel doesn't sugarcoat it. A blade like this, he warns, only ends up hurting the one who carries it. Mary doesn't flinch under the grip on her chin. She won't fear any fire in this world again, she says, fists clenched. The years jump ahead. A girl drops through the dark, falling limp past a stone path. Nearby, a swordsman lies motionless among drifting leaves, blade still in his grip. Only the leaves answer the silence. Now Hegel plants her in front of a barrel crammed with swords. Pick one, he tells her, and if she can swing it, he'll teach her. Mary stares at the blades and swallows, frozen. And if not, then what? He presses, arms crossed, refusing to let her hide. She grips a slender blade and steadies her stance, half-masked, eyes hard. The thrust goes in clean and blood sprays the air. First thrust, her first kill lands, cold and fast. The scene cuts back to now. It's Arhan's hand, blood streaking past his face mid-swing. "So you are uninvited guests, not visitors," he says, voice flat over the chaos. One more blow doubles the bald attacker over, gut open. Behind him, a shirtless brawler crashes to the floor, axe skidding away. Three more shapes close in from the dark hall. A scarred man and a blonde woman recoil, eyes wide with dread. Arhan decides talk is over and cuts the nearest one down, where he stands. In the doorway, a translucent blue shape drifts and watches without a word. Is Master keeping score? Arhan wonders, mid-swing. Turns out the ghost's memory drifts back a month. For 30 days straight, he's taught his young descendant exactly one thing, he says. Arhan runs through the trees for hours on end. The spirit watches, arms crossed, making sure fatigue never catches him. One thrust from Arhan makes the old swordsman actually dodge, eyes shut tight in concentration. The ghost's gaze narrows. That kind of strike, he admits, means the boy is digesting the sword's memory properly. "Now show me, young descendant," he says. And in the present, Arhan's grip tightens on the hilt. One more attacker chokes on his own blood and drops, teeth bared like something less than human. The brawler doesn't get up. Arhan's blade found the one gap between his ribs, precise as a surgeon's cut. Both men clutch wounds that won't close. A gloved hand tightens on the hilt, blood still dripping from the blade. Whose grip is this now? Arhan wonders. Something more than memory is starting to surface. The scene behind his eyes isn't his own, it's Mary's. Her face settles beside his, same age, one lit blue, one lit red, before the colors swirl into a forest. An old swordsman named Hegel drills young Mary on stance and grip, the rhythm of a blade. He teaches her something colder too. Survival leaves no room for manners. So his style is nothing like some rigid academy doctrine. Hegel earned it wandering as a hedge knight, wild and lawless and free. Mary smirks, then hurls a blade of ice the size of a house straight at him. Hegel doesn't uncross his arms. Years on, the girl who once flinched swings a sword like she was born furious. She grins, remembering it now. What she admired most in this world was Hegel's way of the sword. Years pass and the old swordsman grows frail. At his bedside, Mary hears him say it. The hour has come to leave these walls. Now, lying weak, he tells her this is the final lesson he has left to give. Mary cries, grateful her road crossed his all the way to its end. "Mary," he says, her name the last word he ever speaks. Their hands lock tight, and after, she sits alone in the dark, keeping watch over him. Following Hegel's last teaching, she turns her back on the orphanage and steps into the unknown. Turns out that unknown is a battlefield. Mary kneels amid corpses, one woman facing down armed men. Word spreads about her. Maybe it's the odd weapon, a blade thin as a needle, or simply a woman on the front line. Either way, the mercenaries give her a new name, the Stitching Gypsy. Meanwhile, in the present, Arhan feels himself falling through dark, misty space, her blade still in his grip. Is this the summoning his forefather warned him about? Her whole life pours into his skull at once, and his eyes go bloodshot, holding all of it. Across the hall, one of the raiders freezes. Some dark mark burns in the air above Arhan, and he can't look away. The man drops to the floor, blood pooling, begging for one more chance to live. Arhan's blade hovers, his hand shaking on the hilt, and for 1 second Mercy almost wins. Then it falls, straight through his back. Finish the job, someone hisses in his head, and his fingers only tighten around the hilt. Blood dries on his face, and one question won't leave him. How can a first kill feel this hollow? Arhan kneels over the body, blood spreading beneath him. Something in him goes very still. Nothing comes. That opening only worked because the man never saw him as a threat. Arhan knows it. Surrounded now, he can't count on anyone else being careless, so why do the odds still favor them? Two of the raiders freeze. A grizzled spearman bares his teeth. A soldier stumbles in behind him, dagger drawn. Something flickers into being at Arhan's shoulder. Their dread thickens, and he hasn't even lifted a finger. They're paralyzed by dread, his ancestor's ghost says, plain as fact. A little fear keeps a man sharp, he adds. Too much blinds him completely. Right on cue, the soldier breaks, stammering that he has no idea what to do. The spearman only curses back that he doesn't know either. The ghost isn't finished. It's convincing them they're facing something unstoppable, he says. Right now, in their eyes, Arhan isn't a child anymore. Arhan doesn't answer. He just grips the hilt tighter, blade close to his mouth, waiting for the next one to move. One masked raider sizes him up. He's seen enough. He comes in fast, blade aimed straight at Arhan's skull. The others flinch back, sure this is the kill. It isn't. Arhan reads the swing before it lands. Now is the opening, he says, and turns the attack inside out. The masked man reels back, screaming for him to stay away. He swears he'll kill him for it. One raider throws both forearms up to catch the next strike. He grinds his teeth against the impact. For a second, the fight blurs into flashing steel and strain. Another one roars that Arhan's nothing but a miserable brat. He cuts down hard. Panic ruins his aim. The blow catches his own blonde crewmate instead and throws him clean off his feet. Arhan doesn't wait to watch him fall. His blade is already glowing, already moving. The scene blurs. When it clears, the dark-haired raider is already falling, blood arcing from his throat. Arhan watches it land through one narrowed eye and doesn't look away. Then he's moving again, blade first. Someone without the size or the raw stamina of these men has to fight differently. The mustache spearman folds next. Howling, he's caught by a strike that never plays by his rules. Everything speeds up into flashes. A shadow twists, a hand tightens around a hilt. Crouched low, Arhan hears the rest of the old lesson in his own head. Something about the first or second exchange deciding everything. A fist cracks through the gap exactly where the words say it should. The raider doesn't even get a shout out, just a strangled gasp. Eyes go wide with the shock of it. Behind him, another raider swings. He brings it down on an old man too hurt to stand. He screams the whole way through the swing. It's Mary's memory running underneath his own. Years ago, Hegel walked away from two bodies in the rain. Don't waste effort copying what you don't have, he said. Sharpen what you already possess. In that same memory, she's already moving, blade first against a spiky-haired opponent. They crash together. He grits his teeth right into the hit, too slow to answer it. So this is Mary's gift moving through him. Lithness first before anything else. From any stance, any angle, the strike should land. The masked enemy tracks it anyway. One calm eye fixed on the blade. Steel catches steel. The slash that should have ended it gets blocked cold. A blade flashing through the rain. Then the counter throws him backward through the air, all the breath gone from his chest. But under the strain, the enemy's own face cracks first. Veins bulging, jaw locked tight. That's the opening Mary's memory was waiting for. Arhan's blade tears through in one arc. Blood sprays. The man screams. Blood flicks off the blade mid-swing. Proof the hit landed clean. He goes down groaning, one eye cracked from the strain. He doesn't get up. Now Arhan flicks the blood off his sword like it's routine. Somewhere behind the curtain, a hooded figure watches. They freeze. Their hand won't stop shaking on the hilt. What am I seeing, they wonder. Then it lands, hissed like a curse. That monster. Meanwhile, the story jumps. Moonlit forest, something crashing through the canopy at speed. A huge blade bursts up through rock. His ancestor's ghost lands in front of him, gray mane whipping in the wind. Can you cast aside your doubts now? A monster looms in, claws filling the sky, and he's alone under the moon. A caravan grows stronger, the old man says, in a fight that could kill him. Sweat runs down his face. Everything Master warned him about turns out to be true. Now his body moves like a dancer, flexible in ways it shouldn't be. It's reacting to memories buried in the sword. Mary comes back vivid the second the fight starts. This time he understands her a little better. Her ghost looms over his shoulder as he swings, guiding the strike he couldn't make alone. Somewhere in the memory, she's falling through the dark too, burning. She fought the whole world with everything she had. Is this the power? The one that makes you stronger the more you understand your enemy, exactly like Master said? Fire bursts across the sky, and a voice names it the power of digestion. Answer me, young descendant, the ancestor says. He never lies about the sword, the old man reminds him, flat and certain, and he guarantees what's coming. Years of agony, hardship worse than death itself. Even so, can you keep walking this path? The old spirit's glow fades into the trees. Arhan stands alone, fists clenched, hair hiding shooting his eyes. He lets the warning sink in. No turning back now. Whatever this costs, he's moving forward. Then he calls out to the sky, "Master." Nothing answers. He tries again, quieter this time. Unsure now, "Master." The old man looms back into view above him, backlit by the sky. Arhan gasps. He keeps climbing a sheer cliff face, the ghost floating beside him. Halfway up, he has to ask himself, is this even the right direction? Birds scatter across the sky, and the training jumps ahead. Now he's scaling an even bigger rock face, some massive wings shadowing the peak above. He freezes halfway down, catching something the old man just said. Really? The ancestor just keeps climbing, easy as walking. Turns out that stubborn streak of his counts as a strength too. So there's a ladder to climb. Martial talent alone makes you a sword walker. Enough strength to anchor a whole battlefield. And you're a sword runner. Turn a war by yourself and you've earned the name sword expert. Above all of them stand fighters people don't even call swordsmen anymore. They call them gods. Armies charge and die by the thousands just to prove the point. Welcome to the realm of the heart sword. This is Swordmaster territory now. Answer me, young descendant, a voice booms out of the light. Sword mastery takes 3 things. Mana control, a deep reservoir, and a second heart. That second heart has a name, the mana heart. Down on the rock face, Arhan admits it straight. No mana heart, so he probably doesn't even count as a beginner. Of course, the old ghost calls that kind of self-own excellent. His hand claws into cracked stone, sweat dripping down his arm. Then the next words hit. Forge a mana heart too? Wait, excuse me? He goes sliding down the slope, yelling that one wrong move here could actually kill him. Of course, some people have it easy these days. A glowing potion in someone's hand, an armored knight just handing his squire a mana heart. Done. Arhan can't wrap his head around it, knuckles white on the rock. An easy road sits right there, and yet he's grinding his face into stone instead. He genuinely doesn't get it. It's impossible for an ordinary person. The old ghost cuts in, blue fire flaring behind his eyes. If Arhan truly wants to walk the Swordmaster's path, that fire says there's more to come. Now the ancestor shows him what he's actually forging. A heart of steel. There's only one way to build it, he says, while Arhan claws up bare rock. Drive your body to the edge of death again and again until the heart forms on its own. Among his descendants, the old man admits only a handful ever finish that training. One knight kneels bloodied over his own sword, paying for it in the dark. But the ones who make it through, they become sword masters, full stop. Arhan and the old man stand small as the whole sky rains fire over that one word. So the old man needles him. Does he feel a bit motivated now, young descendant? Arhan kneels against cracked stone, wrung out, then leaps straight back into the climb. More than enough, he grins. Then the old man turns solemn, pressing a scarred hand to stone. My descendant, I never lie about the sword, he swears. The heart Arhan builds will be like no other in this world, and for once, he believes it. Meanwhile, night settles over Campbell, at Nothing Village east of the Verde region. Arhan slides into a tavern, where talk at the next table turns to a place emptied out a year back. Every thug who wandered in there vanished without a trace, someone mutters. Of course, the theories pile up. A monster wave, maybe? Or a warlock playing with forbidden magic. Nobody agrees on the cause, but everyone lands on the same warning. Don't set foot in the Western Village, the hooded local says flatly. Not if you want to live. Arhan goes quiet, eyes locking onto the man behind the warning. What is he not saying? Nearby, a woman wipes blood from a coughing old man's mouth. Tavern life at its grimmest. Alone at the counter, our boy chokes on nothing but the drink. Someone jokes the empty village would make a fine hideout, not knowing it's already his. Since that day, Arhan doesn't let himself rest. He climbs the cliff using only his left hand now, just to make it harder. Even after a night spent putting down intruders at the manor, drained to nothing, he still climbs. Other days, his arms can barely lift, muscles screaming, and he still hauls himself up by rope. The old man watches from the rocks above, unmoved. He tumbles through open air on the next drill, debris trailing behind him. Then it's back to rock, one raw hand clawing for a grip. Did the ridiculous training actually forge a mana heart? Not yet. He drops against a tree trunk and admits it, breathing hard. Then he raises his hand and stops cold. It's glowing, faint but real, threading through his fingers like it's been there the whole time. Slowly, his mouth curls into a smirk. Something changed, but what, exactly? Meanwhile, the picture shifts to something stranger, a chained weight swinging on its own trail of light, carving slow arcs through the dark. One of the changes in him is about to show itself. So he's mid-swing now, blade trailing blue light, a blur of motion. One eye catches a strike crossing his face before it even lands. In a corridor full of incoming blades, he barely moves, dodging every one on instinct. Then he just grabs the next blade barehanded and stops it cold. Across from him, a hooded fighter snarls and drives a chain blade forward. Turns out what guides Arhan now goes past sight and sound entirely, some sense underneath the 5 he was born with. He braces and deflects the next wave of slashes without needing to see them land. The scale flips, the enemy towers now, but he closes in anyway, blade aimed low at a leg like a tree trunk. Back in the corridor, a wire-thin blade whips through the hall and sparks off the floor. He lunges, weapon trailing bright streaks, moving at a level that shouldn't be possible this soon. Now he narrows everything down to one exact point, hand angling the blade with total precision. His eye locks onto the light like he's threading a needle. For one heartbeat, the hooded fighter is trapped, Shane biting into their own arm as they scream. Above them, a blade comes down, already locked onto its mark. No stopping it now. For Arhan, time itself seems to stretch thin around the swing. Everything else stops. His eye catches the blade's light reflected back at him, sharp and still. A wide blade sweeps past and he barely gets his guard up in time. It's enough to send him skidding back on one knee. Boots scraping sparks off the floor. For a second, the hooded fighter has the upper hand. Then the flip. Blood sprays from the hooded fighter's own wound, not his. Arhan's strike already landed before the fighter even finished pulling back. Blood flecks his cheek and hair, and his eye stays calm, sharp, unbothered. Then the memory breaks through. Mary is screaming, a storm of strikes landing across her body at once. She lunges anyway, blood spraying near her own hands, teeth gritted through the pain. A hand reaches out into the dark and the thought settles. The me before and the me now. Now, one reason for the change, Arhan says, face gone serious. One sword planted in stone, then a whole misty field of them, blade after blade, like gravestones. Arhan sits cross-legged beneath a tree while his ancestor's ghost floats, effortless, above a blade the size of a house. Watching that kind of power up close, Arhan asks what's waiting for him at the next stage. His master just smirks, eyes sharp with confidence. Honestly, being impressed by that little still marks him as green. So here's the deal. Form a mana heart. Become a sword beginner. Then the old ghost will finally explain the needle's real depth. Only then does Arhan stand level with the woman who once owned it, Mary. Take one more step past that and the flames climb higher. The world has a name for that next rank too, Swordwalker, the stage right after beginner. The gap between the two, his ghost warns, he won't understand until he's standing in it. I understand, Arhan answers and lets the lesson settle. Turns out there's more on his master's mind. A newcomer who's just settled in his territory. Embers drift past a sword hilt and a wrapped cloak. Under a full moon, a bearded stranger stands alone, faint blue light glowing at his side. That man, his ghost says, is nothing like the trash Arhan's beaten so far. Running from him isn't an option Arhan can choose. The land around them has sat empty for years, barely recognizable from what it was. Why abandon the one place that still holds every memory of the people he lost? Alone on a hill above the sleeping village, Arhan just wants somewhere to remember them. His ancestor stands with him in the mist without a word, so that no one, the old ghost adds, ever dares mock what Arhan's chosen. Meanwhile, out in a wide, misty field, the stranger trains alone, tossing his blade skyward and catching it clean. Arhan watches him do it, quiet, from a distance. Watching from the shadows feels safe enough, or so Arhan thinks. Has he really been careless enough to get spotted? Bad move. The stranger already knows he's there. Don't even think about running, the man warns. Sword drawn, blade catching light mid-strike. Show him your back, he warns, flame curling around his fist, and he'll cut Arhan down where he stands. Steel flashes silver across the dark, no hesitation. Teeth clenched, sweat dripping, Arhan makes his own vow. He'll cut this man down first. Rain keeps falling over the ruined fief, day after gray day. Ever since the stranger arrived, Arhan's been watching him in secret, piece by piece. The picture comes together. The man never touches what isn't his, not even scrap metal. He owns almost nothing, one worn bag and the clothes on his back. That's it. Every evening, he sits alone on the cliff, watching the sun go down. Some nights it's prayer instead, head bowed over some small trinket in his hands. Meanwhile, Arhan tails him from behind the trees, careful to stay hidden. The ghost drifts up beside him, studying the same man. A true swordwalker, he says, one who keeps discipline even with no one watching. Discipline like that is rare outside the knighthood, the ghost adds. For a second, Arhan lets himself hope. Could a knight actually make a decent first neighbor? Knights are supposed to stand for honor and justice, after all. Of course, the ghost isn't buying it. A knight's honor, he says, belongs to whoever signs his pay. Loyalty follows the money, not the ideals. Strip the armor off, and a knight is just an enemy wrapped in expensive steel. Don't get fooled by the word knight, the ghost warns. Look at what's actually standing in front of you. Suspicion, the ghost says. Just the one word. He tells Arhan to hold onto it, calls it the most precious talent he owns. Arhan's breath catches, eyes wide. Wait, that's the talent? It's an attitude, the ghost explains. The drive to chase truth by any means necessary. Appearances lie, and swallowing them whole means Arhan can never break past his own limits. Don't lose that edge, not now. That's precisely where his sword talent lives, the ghost tells him. Arhan tenses, sweat beading on his brow, and answers with a quiet yes. He promises the ghost he'll remember it, word for word. Arhan's jaw sets, his hand tightening on the sheathed sword. Under the full moon, one lesson stays with him. Never drop his guard around the stranger. Now, enough dusk to dawn watching tells him the traveler won't turn hostile. Arhan decides tonight's the night he proposes they become neighbors. A sword ignites blue overhead before he can speak. It falls in a burning arc, and the man beneath it doesn't even turn around. I am aware you have been watching me. So he closes in, blade low, and warns Arhan not to even think about running. Arhan barely breathes. A bright line of light whips past his face, testing him. Blue fire climbs his whole sword arm now, his eyes gone razor thin. Turn your back on him, he warns, and he'll cut Arhan down where he stands. No theatrics, just math. Arhan's sweat runs cold. For a heartbeat, another memory surfaces. White hair, a blade, drops falling like rain. Arhan grips his own weapon and glares back, jaw set. What is this gap between them exactly? Then Mary's memory floods in whole. The mercenary they called the suing gypsy. Needle blade drawn, she's ready. Beside her, a hooded stranger stands rigid in the shadow, sword raised. Blood already streaks the steel, a second round underway. It drips slow now, off a blade somebody already bled for. Well, a man kneels clutching his own wound while Mary stands over him. Maybe she thinks she's outgrown the rank of a mere mercenary with a strange sword. She turns into the light, spine straight, blade catching fire in the sun, and I've truly become a master swordsman. Somewhere, a fist closes hard. Something's listening, but it doesn't take long to prove her wrong. Her blade already lies shattered, buried somewhere far from here. Rain streaks the glass after. That pride, it turns out, was pure arrogance. Turns out, a knight closes in to mock her own nickname. The suing gypsy, he calls it, perfectly suited to such a feeble blade. He'd told her she seemed so proud of her skill, like pride alone could win a fight. He stands over her now, calling her nothing but a trivial mercenary, hardly worth the title, just an insect, he spits. He leans in close enough she can't look away. Naturally, his cape carries the red falcon crest. The only reason she's still breathing is their code, not his mercy. He walks off through the trees while someone else watches from the dark, silent. That day, Arhan realizes, was never just between him and one man. It was between him and the whole idea of a knight. Mary kneels in the dust. She holds her ruined blade against her chest like it still owes her something. Later, he learns the name for the stage the man in front of him already reached, Swordwalker. It's a realm past ordinary strength, where mana pushes out past the skin like a second set of nerves. Arhan grips his own blade and shakes, straining just to stand this close to it. And Mary, in the memories he swallowed, is far stronger than he is right now. She couldn't so much as raise a hand against that knight, so what does that make the man standing in front of him? Meanwhile, Arhan stands alone at the ridge, sword glowing in his grip, watching the sun go down. Something's coming. It feels more real than the fall that almost killed him. It looms up from below, one eye burning red, blade raised high, pink light flickers down the steel, closer with every breath. Arhan's heart slams against his ribs, faster with every step it takes. His grip locks tight around the hilt. Now, this is the realm only a swordwalker reaches. Mana pushes out past the skin like veins of light around the whole body. It arms every strike, every guard, with pure will. One leap through that surge, and the blade already falls. No time left to flinch. Arhan plants his feet, sword up, sweat cutting down his face. No more waiting. Arhan demands to know why he's been watched. He's willing to bet this is the one who jumped the visitors. Give me a reason, he warns, or you're the enemy. The knight says it was never an attack. He just needed to know, guest or intruder. Turns out, a year back while he was away, a black magician's people slipped onto this land. The knight hunted them down himself, one by one. He's keeping the rest of the story to himself. That's the whole reason he's been watching. Guest or intruder, nothing more. Honestly, this land holds every memory Arhan has left. It's too precious to just abandon and run, the same words his father once said. The knight's eyes ease. To be fair, that's as close to a compliment as the guy ever gives. He calls it a hard ordeal, well earned, and says he's satisfied. So now it's his turn to speak. The Swordwalker's road means pushing to the edge between life and death, again and again. Eventually, the body itself starts craving a mana heart. Of course, the ancestor's ghost picks that moment to pipe up. How's it going, my young descendant? Naturally, Arhan refuses. He can't trust him yet, not fully, and for now, he needs the sword. His grip tightens on the hilt, his eyes narrow. What is he bracing for now? A memory flashes. A man on his knees, sword dropped, someone standing over him with nothing but contempt, kneeling in fear before even trying to fight. Arhan remembers the oath he made to himself. Could he ever let that happen to him? Never again. So, the traveler studies him first, sword hand loose, eyes tracking Arhan like a written report. This boy could almost pass for a girl at a glance. Delicate wrists, softer face, but scars run under his shirt from years of brutal, self-driven training. For someone that small, his balance is flawless. He never learned the sword through any proper school. He built one wild, unorthodox style around a single all-in first strike. Now, watching him stand alone in that empty field, the traveler almost writes him off as harmless. The kid poses no real threat at all, he tells himself. And yet, something about the stillness in Arhan's stance refuses to let that thought settle. One look at Arhan's eyes kills that comfort outright. Dead on the spot. There's a spark behind them, sharp and lit from within. Nothing like a harmless farm boy's stare. Turns out, that spark was only the warm-up. Arhan breathes out, and blue light rolls off him like heat off a forge. He draws his sword slow, aura trailing the blade, and sets one condition. A half-hearted response won't suffice. Then the strike lands full force, energy tearing a scar clean across the ground. His opponent's thrown clean off his feet in one shot, sliding hard through the dirt. Bad move. Honestly, our boy's already airborne again, closing in for a second pass. He's not out to kill. He wants the wrist, not the throat. A clean disarm and nothing else. The blade connects, a scream tears loose, sharp with shock. Silence holds for one long beat, both of them staring at the light still hanging in the air. Then more blades fall like rain, and the next clash is already closing in. Arhan's sword snaps up to block, sparks spraying off cross steel. His eyes cut upward, already tracking the next hit before it forms. Another strike already? This man barely gives him room to breathe between hits. Just like that, Arhan leaps again, sword thrusting straight up, dust kicking off the ground beneath his landing. There's more where that came from, and he means every word of it. He pulls in one more breath, blue energy coiling tighter around the blade. Can this body take much more? He doesn't stop long enough to answer that question. His chest flares open, a glowing mana heart pulses straight through his ribs, bright enough to hurt to look at. The sight alone stops the traveler cold. Even so, it should be impossible to parry a strike like that. Sweat runs cold down the traveler's back. Yet, that boy did it, and that mana heart of his isn't just glowing anymore. It's holding, solid as forged steel. Honestly, he can't be certain of anything right now. Blue light sharpens along Arhan's stare, and the knight reads it like a warning. Now, one thing's certain, this towering stranger looming over a boy holding little more than a stick means business. A strike is coming. Arhan throws everything into it, blade blazing blue, nothing held back. The knight's hand rises to meet it head on. Under the hood, his mouth splits into a grin, and it's not a friendly one. Turns out his hand is still shaking from that earlier block. That wasn't skill, he tells himself, just a stroke of luck. Except it wasn't luck at all. Something forged hard as steel in his chest made the impossible possible. He reads the line before it even forms and thrusts to meet it. So the blades cross in a flash of light. Arhan is the one thrown clear off the cliff edge. He slams into the ground hard enough to crack it open. It feels like a carriage at full speed just caught him square in the chest. Every bone in his body screams as he forces himself back up. Now the gap in power takes shape in his head. Something huge and black-furred, jaws open, one burning eye. Is this what a real gap in power looks like? He doesn't step back. His grin trembles, heart hammering under it. But he holds the line anyway. This is what I've longed for, he thinks. Still, a beginner's thrust was never going to reach a man like that. Was it? Meanwhile, blue light swallows the fight, and an old memory rises to take its place. Mary sits sketching under a gray sky, birds cutting overhead in her recollection. The first voice that comes back to her is Hegel's. Arhan wakes from it sweating, staring blank at the ceiling. In the memory, Mary sits at a dying man's bedside, while Hegel tells her plainly, most swordsmen call a wall their limit. Every swordsman's fate, he says, is nothing but a foothold to climb higher. Don't look away. Instead, stand tall and keep walking forward. Fire splits the ground, and the wall takes a shape of its own. An armored knight wrapped in flame, one eye burning behind the visor. He raises his blade against it, but it moves first. The strike comes down, and Mary is caught inside it, red hair falling through the cut. The blade throws Mary clean through the air. Again, that's what a wall does. It cuts you down and drops you to your knees. But Hegel's voice won't let her stay there. Keep clashing, no matter how many times you fall. Now the smoke clears. Arhan's still standing, blue light crawling up his blade. Not done yet. Wind drags at his hair and cloak under a bruised pink sky. His stare doesn't move. Turns out every swordsman meets this same wall eventually. Anyone who's ever burned that hot for something. It doesn't care how hard you've trained, it just stands there. Even one more step starts to feel like hauling the whole world. The knight watches through the dust, half expecting him to break. He doesn't. Naturally, that's when the ground starts to crack. Blue light rips through the dust. Arhan stands at the center of it, sword raised, rubble frozen midair. Honestly, is this defiance real or just bravado talking? The path doesn't have to be perfect, just clumsy and possible. One more step forward, cracks spreading under his boot, and that's enough. Then his eyes snap open, glowing blue, question everything. What is the knight's body telling him that his eyes keep missing? Which muscles tense? How he steadies each breath? Arhan reads it all now. Collect every clue, discard the rest, forge it into something sharp. The knight comes in spinning, sword first, expecting the same trembling boy from before. He doesn't get him. Blades cross and blue fire detonates in the dark between them. Then the ancestor's voice cuts through it all, solemn for once. That's what it means to be a caravan, descendant. Don't fear being broken by the collision, he adds. Cast your whole self into the trial and come out remade. A blade of pure light plunges into the earth. Now show it to the world, the old voice orders. Arhan answers with the family's old war cry, the will of the caravan, and the whole slope erupts in fire and flying dirt. Arhan charges straight through his own blast, sword still live in his hand. Fettel slams down hard on the far side, debris raining around him. The blow has landed. Turns out the needle hasn't finished talking. Mary's memory surges up again, bloodied, gritting out that she was afraid. The sole survivor of her own burning house. The disaster only just beginning. Arhan feels that same ache pull at him. Is this what surviving costs? These days, when even breathing felt like a fight he was losing? Honestly, the thing she should have feared was never the fire. It was her own weakness, the part of her that only wanted to run. A blade catches her collar, sparks scattering into the dark. The wound is real. A house burns to nothing behind her, and that world takes everything. Her days, her family, even the future she never got to live. Now she's screaming into the flames, one question burning brighter than the fire itself. Has she ever really broken through? Arhan's blade answers for both of them. One arc of blue fire tears through the flames. Real, finally. He dives down at Fettel through the burning air, blade first. Their strikes cross so close, the two of them share one heartbeat. Arhan grits his teeth against the strain, and the slash lets go all at once. The two of them collide in one shared explosion on the slope, swallowed whole by the blast. A blade whips across the darkening sky, and something breaks loose, spinning down through the dusk. Well, the memory isn't finished with him yet. Through Arhan, Mary finishes her own sentence. She stepped out into the world alone under a full moon and never really stopped wandering. Somewhere in the fog below, a lone swordswoman stands with her eyes closed, blade sheathed, still asking if she ever truly lived. So the fog won't let her go. She's still weighing her freedom against someone else's. Back then, she's carrying someone through a windmill village already burning. The world was crawling with monsters stronger than her. Bodies keep dropping around them into the flames. A scorched figure stands in the rubble. This much he can endure. He carries a child through the fire, swearing to guard them to his last breath. From any wall in his path, he vows. Somewhere across time, that same line answers Arhan's own wall too. Meanwhile, somewhere in the trees, a smaller figure remembers that promise, alone in the mist. When her time comes, she thinks she'll do the same for someone else. Mary turns her back to the dark, sword strapped in place, ready to speak. I'll tell you my story, she says. It starts like this. Well, her eyes fill up while Hagel's jaw locks tight beside her. She tells him plainly she isn't who she used to be. She leans into him and cries it out one last time. Then the vision folds into a red sky and a blade shaped like a crescent moon. Now embers drift over the dark treetops back in the present. Somewhere close, something watches. A single red eye narrows, unseen. Arhan groans and comes to on the scorched ground. He drags himself up by a dying fire, dazed. Did he really black out? He finds a robe crumpled in the dirt and goes still. If this belongs to the night, is he already gone? Nearby, his sword lies snapped in the dirt. He failed. In the end, he never broke through. He sits cross-legged anyway, working a tiny blade over and over, sharp-eyed and stubborn. Naturally, the old ghost can't resist needling him about the loss. Besides that bitter defeat, he asks with a sly grin, "Don't you feel something else stirring?" Of course, that's the moment it hits him. The needle is fully his now, digested whole. His muscles loosen, lighter and quicker than they've ever felt. His senses sharpen too, keen enough now to track a wild beast's every twitch. In his mind, a towering shape rises now, where a small, quiet woman once stood alone. Turns out, he feels like a veteran mercenary in his own skin. His sword sits balanced like it's always been his. He finally understands why his master picked this exact blade. It was never just about strength or skill. He realizes his master wanted him to see her whole life, blood and all. Even at her worst, she never once gave up. The old ghost watches the embers fall, quiet for once, caught on that same indomitable will. Honestly, Arhan mutters by the fire, alone again. Would that have killed him? One tear slips free before Arhan can stop it, the fire's glow still ghosting behind his eyes. Turns out this all traces back to the night before. A cold campfire, a hovering ghost, Arhan half asleep under the moon. A voice cuts through the dark, telling him he's finally awake. It calls him young master. Arhan's eyes snap open, sharp and wary in an instant. The bearded stranger just smiles, scratching his cheek, calm despite the tension, then trails off mid-sentence. Arhan crouches low, gripping his weapon, sweat beading on his brow. There are still some misunderstandings to resolve, the stranger says, stepping closer through drifting embers. Then the ancestor's voice slides in, calm as always. No need to be so wary, young descendant, he says. Of course, Arhan's still suspicious. Suspicion's just unavoidable by now, he mutters. The old ghost presses on, saying he understands what Arhan's endured and why he poses no threat at all. Then Arhan jolts upright, alarmed. What's the old man really doing right now? The hooded man steadies himself and finally gives his name. Fettel, once a knight, now just a wanderer with nowhere to go. Nowhere left to go. He's not finished. Fettel says he's carrying an incurable disease, the kind that stops a man cold. Purple fire crawls across his chest as he speaks, the sickness eating him from inside. Even the highest priest gave up on him. A month left, maybe less. Honestly, he calls himself nothing more than a frail invalid, just waiting on death to collect him. Then, by the dying fire, he asks Arhan for a moment, just to hear his story out. Can a dying man's word even be trusted? Arhan doesn't know yet, but he listens anyway. The scene dissolves into drifting embers. Over a blurred forest road at dusk, pulling the memory further back. Turns out Fettel was never much of a talker, sharp with a blade, clumsy with words. But that clumsiness reads as honest, not rehearsed, sitting there by the fire. Arhan listens close, piecing together what he's learning about this man. Diagnosed with something incurable, Fettel walked away from the nights he'd served for years. He wanted somewhere quiet to end his days. He shrugs it off though. The reason I left isn't that grand, he says. In the memory, his eyes flash red under the hood as he admits the truth. For his final stretch of life, he just wanted to be alone. So there he sits, one more night, alone by a small fire deep in the woods. Meanwhile, someone's watching from the dark, a woman, quiet, studying him without a word. Back at Arhan's fire, the old ancestor weighs it all and gives his verdict. Doesn't seem to be lying. The ancestor lays out what the sickness actually does. It feeds on the body first, then works its way toward the mana heart. Once it reaches that far, he says, there's no coming back. Then, over the misty tree line, Fettel's voice reaches out one more time. Is this enough? He asks Arhan straight to call him a neighbor. Fettel leans down and offers his hand. Arhan takes it and gives his name back. Arhan, the last one left on this land. Above them, the ancestor's ghost watches, arms crossed, a silent judge over it all. His stare says he approves, though he'd never say so outright. Arhan turns back toward the smoking dark that used to be his home. Something blue pulses faint under his collar, a quiet echo of the power now living in him. For one blink, his mind conjures something monstrous, fangs and blood where the fields used to be. There's no place like that place anymore. Some part of him already knows it. Now the road goes quiet, wagon wheels rolling through mist under a pale sky. The ancestor floats above the clouds, mocking a complaint Arhan hasn't voiced yet. Somewhere they have to go. Meanwhile, the manor's safe, watched over by Sir Fettel while he's away. Still, is that really enough? Some part of Arhan wonders. Honestly, is it really necessary to travel this far? Arhan wonders from his seat. Ticks tick, the old man scoffs, still thinking like a commoner. The wagon rolls on while the old man starts his lecture. No shortcuts. Only struggle like that forges a new sword in him, right here at their destination. Turns out, one field draws every warrior hungry for blood. Duels settled with lives on the line. In his era, the old man says, that place carried a name whispered with dread. Steel meets steel in a blur from 100 years back. Blades screaming sparks under torchlight. One counter flips it all, close enough to cut a stranger's face, and the crowd below reacts in raw horror. The view tilts up toward a tower against the sky. A lone shape drops through a ring of light while the crowd below cranes to watch. Grand arches rise into view. The arena. There in its shadowed hallway stands Arhan, face to face with his ancestor's ghost once more. The road ends at Firma, a walled city under open sky. Firma, the old man notes, is one of the great forge towns of the Iron Kingdom. Down in the smithy, a blacksmith hammers glowing steel, sparks jumping with every strike. So, the road spills them straight into the crowd. Hooded travelers and armored guards pack the streets, carts rattling past stalls of goods. Rising over the rooftops stands an ancient coliseum, older than the city itself. Whatever built Firma's fortune started right there, long before the forges did. The size of it rocks Arhan back on his heels. Oh, he thinks. Oh. Now the ancestor drifts beside him, quieter than usual, admitting it isn't half bad. The old ghost says that stadium heat hasn't changed in 200 years. Arhan just stares. What battles once filled that ring? Turns out this ring once hosted beast duels for the ultimate predator. Wild duels pitted man against beast, and racial duels decided which species stood supreme. Firstest of all, the Duel of Strife. Warriors of every creed clashed there, bled in the dirt like animals. Honestly, the crowd back then fed on it. Spectators drunk on blood threw gold with every scream. Gambling and cheering, curdling into madness. That, the ghost says, is the real face of Firma, a city raised on spilled blood. Meanwhile, the ghost turns hard on him. Growing powerful the fast way, he says, is simple-minded. If it were that easy, he'd have already fed Arhan every blade rusting in that junkyard, mementos included, left behind by dead intruders. Blindly devouring everything isn't that simple, he warns. Get it wrong. The jumbled memories swallow you instead. Arhan grips a crystal shard and a memory flares through it. Someone cradling a bleeding man, raw and unclaimed pain. Whose grief is that? The sword shouldn't control you, the ghost warns, his shape stark against a stormy sky. You control it, or you lose yourself. So until Arhan opens his own eyes, he only eats the swords the master chooses. Well, bright light breaks through the clouds. Shall they go, the ghost asks, to the field of heated struggle. Two dark shapes cut across the sky above the rooftops. Road already bending toward the arena. Near the gates, hopefuls funnel forward in a slow column. One wears a horned helmet, the rest mismatched armor, all headed the same way. Of course, trouble finds Arhan the moment he steps up. A ring of strangers closes in, blades half drawn, one hiding a knife at his side. He can't compete without it, they warn. Eh? Arhan blinks, lost, no idea what they mean. Just like that, all he needed was a medal, and a green-haired clerk is already holding one out. Take your medal and get back in line, she says. One more thing before the gates. Those medals racked up aren't decoration. Each one measures a fighter's power, the arena's rank made physical. Arhan flips the fresh medal on its cord, smirking. Place has changed alright. The ghost picks up the thread. Scholar or butcher? The old Colosseum never cared which. Now, in his day, you got thrown straight into the ring the moment you arrived, no matter who you were. A hulking veteran looms over some wide-eyed rookie clutching a shaking knife, the ghost's idea of a welcome. Walking on, Arhan mutters that ranks are probably just money dressed up as honor. Times changed everything anyway, whether the old rules liked it or not. The arena turned into a landmark people now traveled days just to see. Meanwhile, people started pouring in from every corner of the kingdom to see it. Firma grew from that into the sprawling city standing in front of them now. Is there some unspoken rule among warriors? Arhan can't help wondering, half to himself. Of course there is, the ghost smirks, and losers rarely walk out in one piece. Well, the ghost drifts beside him, insisting a fair duel teaches lessons no real battle can. Worth checking the smithies too, he adds. Their steel beats that busted forge back home. Then he snaps fully solid, voice going sharp. Descendant, what is this? Arhan just blinks, lost. Above them runs a colonnade of mounted blades, daggers, crossed swords, a winged shield glinting in stone. Arhan just stares, speechless. He and the ghost both crane their necks up the row. Why are weapons just sitting out in the middle of the street? Of course a gray-haired stranger's already standing right behind him, and Arhan nearly jumps out of his skin. Well, he stammers, not really sure himself either. The old caretaker sweeps a hand down the gallery. Every blade here belonged to a warrior who earned it. He cuts straight to an old memory. A masked swordsman mid-strike, blade raised high. Fighting spirit, Arhan echoes, unconvinced. The old man just beams, please someone finally asked. Keeper of this place, he says, and glad for the job, his one small reward. Turns out the ghost leans in and already knows exactly what to ask. Somewhere past the counter, a voice calls out, he's found it. Two matching blades flare gold, the next sword Arhan's meant to devour. Cut to the arena itself, its arches blazing wide under a bright open sky. So Arhan strides down a torchlit corridor, sword held low and ready. Footsteps echo off the stone, sharp in the quiet. The scar under his eye pulls tight, the tension climbing with every step. Of course there's a reward, the old man winks back. Climb high enough and it's yours for the taking. Now the ghost lays out the arena's real currency. Every medal earned as a gladiator buys the right to claim a matching blade. Arhan's eyes narrow, already counting what he could take, and down below waits the hall the old spirit calls a treasure trove in itself. He drifts along the corridor at Arhan's shoulder, a translucent blue shape only the boy can see. Old junk to everyone else, he says, but worth their weight in gold to you. Honestly, if he still had hands of his own, he'd rob the whole hall blind. That's impossible, he admits, because one man stands in the way. Turns out that manager is no ordinary caretaker. Blue mana wraps him like armor he can call up at will. Absolute defense, the ghost says flatly. A sword expert running a trophy hall? Arhan's stomach drops. Sweat breaks cold down his neck. Why would a monster like that waste his life minding a museum? Arhan wonders. No need to be so surprised, the old spirit shrugs. Robbing the hall will just have to wait. Even after all these years, he mutters, eyeing a blade looming nearby. One thing about this place never changed. Of course, the arena keeps one old custom alive. Hide your face, and rank, name, and fame fall away with it. A hooded registrar waits for him in the corridor, hands clasped, unmoving. Those are the terms, he says. Face every opponent only as a gladiator, not as a man. Fine by him, Arhan thinks. He can fight without hesitation either way. He squares up, sword still sheathed, reading the stranger's stillness. Leaning close, the registrar studies this new face he has never seen before. Your alias, he asks, the name you're proudest to carry as a fighter. No one enters without one. Arhan freezes on the question, the silence stretching. His mind drops back, a boy standing under his father's hand, a legendary blade floating above them both. Behind it looms the old ancestor's shrine portrait, sword gripped like a vow. That's the name that built the caravan house. He doesn't even know what name is his to give. In that case, he starts, before the old registrar cuts him off at the gate. Well, whatever you pick will do. The registrar waves off, leaning on his cane. He wishes him victory on this first step. Young fighter, someone calls, as the gate swings open onto blinding light. Arhan walks in alone, sword sheathed across his back, jaw set, one sharp breath. Above him, the arena waits, empty, sunlit, saving its noise for later. Meanwhile, another fighter nearby, blonde like him, snarls that bronze is the lowest rank there is, like it's a personal insult. Fair, Arhan thinks. Bronze bouts are just filler, a way to kill time before the real matches start. Nearby, a grizzled, gray-haired brute rounds on some poor fighter. Waste my time and you're dead, he barks. Arhan doesn't know it yet. That voice is about to become his problem. So the ghost drops the joking act. He warns Arhan that speaking the name Liam here binds him to the whole caravan line. Arhan doesn't blink, of course. Then the confrontation begins. A mountain of muscle and bandages steps into the ring, sword slung over one shoulder, dwarfing him whole. Now the announcer hypes the crowd for match 3, calling out the rookie fighters. First up in his very first arena bout, the rookie brat Liam. Across from him stands a giant already 3 wins deep despite being a rookie too. They call him Temer. The giant grins wide and ugly under his helmet, savoring the moment before. Then a priest raises his own blade, declaring the bout sacred, dedicated to the goddess Lepri. Turns out the giant thinks the name is a joke. Liam? You picked a ridiculous name, kid. Arhan just shrugs it off, deadpan. Yeah, weak and pathetic, as expected. Honestly, he adds, it's not even worth drawing his sword for someone like him. The giant demands he strip the mask and the funny little sword right now. Arhan doesn't answer, he just watches, calm, sizing him up. Arhan needles him about it. Everyone knows killing's off limits here, so why does the giant look so fearless? Because back home in the Zernia Mountains, a beaten man never lives to tell it. He's bragged about this before, choking a man with his bare hands, boasting he snapped necks with them. He lifts the poor soul clean off the ground, legs kicking at nothing. To the winner go the spoils, he says, and here that means a corpse. He grins wider, promising the crowd this will be the best show yet. Arhan to him barely even registers, some scrawny nobody not worth the effort of caring, so try shaking that girly body, he sneers, sizing up the mismatch. Meanwhile, the announcer feels the tension crackling between them, hyping the crowd on the standoff. He waves both fighters to their marks, the match about to start. The giant looms over him now, sword propped like he's not even worried. He vows revenge for insulting his name. Arhan's going to regret it. Then I'll let you die comfortably. Arhan stammers back, shaky hands and cold sweat. Then something shifts in the giant's face. Wide eyes, jaw gone tight. Is that a flicker of fear underneath all that bravado? For 1 second, the giant doesn't look so sure of himself. Temer throws his head back and laughs in the pouring rain. Pure comedy, as far as he's concerned. To him, our boy's threat barely counts as a joke. Now the crowd picks up the mockery too, laughing off the name Liam. Temer leans in close, mask gleaming with rain, and warns that going easy just got harder. He grips his helmet and lets the threat hang unfinished. Under the mask, his grin splits wide, sharp and hungry. He's done being patient. Blood already streaks his claws and he raises one hand, demanding an apology. A single claw presses into Liam's forehead and draws a bead of blood. If you wish to die comfortably, Temer purrs, and Liam doesn't blink. Of course, he does it again. Same claw, same blood. Liam stares back and doesn't flinch this time either. Not even a twitch. Temer crouches low, certain the kid in front of him is finished. Then Liam charges, blade drawn, done holding back. Steel connects in a streak of red light, and Temer goes flying. Just like that, the giant is smashed through the debris, coughing up blood. Meanwhile, a nearby fighter grunts, stunned by the shockwave alone. Somewhere in the dust, a scream tears through the rain. Then the whole crowd gasps as one, and blue energy flashes across the arena. Liam stands alone in the wreckage, sword lowered, and for a second the whole place goes quiet. Temer can't process what he just watched. Only a moment ago this kid was shaking, clumsy, barely able to stand. None of that was real. His eye twitches wide with disbelief, and a name almost slips out. Don't tell me that's him. Liam speaks now, calm and cold, eyes sharp and blue. He asks if anyone would still call his trembling cowardly. Temer looks up, rain streaking his face, and starts to agree that it was a trick. Then he stops himself. Naturally, admitting defeat was never part of Temer's plan. He explodes forward instead, blades clashing, roaring that Liam's a bastard. I'm gonna kill you, he snarls, tearing through the wreckage with everything he's got. This isn't skill anymore, it's rage. The blow catches Liam sideways and throws him off his feet. He grits his teeth, cursing under his breath over and over. Damn it, damn it, damn it. So Liam keeps swinging, but nothing lands. Why does Temer keep slipping past every strike? He's missing him by a hair, over and over, no matter how he adjusts. Is this over, or just beginning? The giant's blade finally lands. It opens a clean red line across his chest. For one heartbeat, the whole arena melts away. A giant serpent fills his mind, one blue eye blazing, and a single question surfaces: who am I? His swallowed swords answer before he does, snapping his hands into a blur of practiced cuts. He's back before the dust even settles. Arhan leaps in with a raw scream. He meets the next strike head on, blade cracking against blade in a burst of sparks. Turns out this time it's the giant who chokes. The blow throws him backward, blood trailing through the air as he crashes and skids across the ring. Debris covers the ground where he lands. Arhan drops onto a narrow beam without wasting emotion, calm. Below him, the giant's eyes narrow beneath his mask, struggling to understand what just happened. Now the giant's the one kneeling, sword jammed into stone just to hold him up. Blood pools beneath him. His breath comes in ragged gasps. One more strike finishes it. Blood beads down the blade. Arhan looms over the wreck of the fighter who mocked him minutes ago. He orders the giant to strip off that mask and dance for him. Honestly, hearing the words leave his own mouth catches him off guard. Since when does he sound like this? So, up in the stands, one older spectator leans forward, watching this bronze rank scrap a little too closely. Naturally, he throws the giant's own threat right back at him. He'll spare that useless head, for now. The giant gasps, dust and wind tearing at his back, and claws for his fallen sword. His bloody hand barely reaches it. Alright, he finally breaks. Somewhere behind his eyes, an old bargain flickers awake, one voice pleading, another cutting it off mid-word. Whatever gave him that claw once begged for more time too. It got a blade through it instead. Meanwhile, back in the ring, the giant's blade meets Arhan's bare palm mid-swing. Blood slides down the steel. Gauntlet grinds against the edge, neither one giving an inch. The giant's eye goes wide, the truth finally landing. Teeth bared, pain and fury twist his face. Arhan just tightens his fist. "You better choose your next move carefully," he warns. Just then, Tamer grins through the blood. There won't be any more offers, then it's over. Both of them are kneeling in the dust, and now it's him groping for words. He bows his head and apologizes for insulting Liam's name. Then he begs flat out for his life. No answer. Nearby, a couple of spectators go rigid, sensing there's more to come. Turns out that's the blow that decided it. Liam's blade finds him once more, and it's done. In the stands, the crowd loses it. They can't believe the underdog just delivered a payday. Word spreads through the dust, that's Liam. Then the whole arena finds the name and won't let go. The little gladiator, Liam. Even the match announcer notes it, a debut, and already this kind of following. Somewhere in the stands, a lord takes note too. He decides he's found himself a promising piece. Meanwhile, backstage, two men shake hands over something uglier. One word passes between them, poison. The sky clears, a few days pass, the arena's stone arches rise again over Firma, waiting for him. Wait, is that really him they mean? Honestly, our boy still isn't used to the title. The clerk just grins and says it again. Gladiator Liam. A silver promotion medal glints above him. Is this the ladder up or a shorter leash? Then she asks straight out if he wants in. Now, 2 days on from the Temer fight, 3 more matches follow in that stretch. He wins every one of them. Every fight ends fast. Clean, cold, nothing wasted, the kind of efficiency that unnerves anyone paying attention. He walks off, blade still catching the light. Naturally, the clerk isn't buying the offer's goodwill either. You know how these things usually end. Something feels off. What's the catch here? Liam's eyes narrow, sharp and wary, while the old ghost stands silent behind him, unnoticed. So the clerk lays it out plain. Win one assigned duel, and he's promoted. She swears it's the opportunity of a lifetime. One he'd be foolish to skip. Reach silver, she says, and he'll face fighters worlds above anything he's beaten. Naturally, the fees jump too. Coins spill across the screen, gold enough to fill a chest. Onlookers gape at the sum, jaws dropping. One woman just smirks, tongue out like she already knows how this ends. Turns out there's an uglier side to it. A grizzled old-timer leans in, laying out a tradition as old as the arena itself. Cold, efficient rookies, ones just like him, don't get promoted. They get used. They lure a newcomer in with a promotion, then throw them at a monster they can't touch. The beating goes on public display. It's an execution. He can already picture it. 3 men laughing down at some rookie bound and helpless before the crowd. Refuse now comes the warning, or wear that disgrace himself. Liam stands alone after, head bowed, dust drifting past him in the empty hall. He accepts anyway. Behind him, the old ghost's shadow looms, unnoticed. 2 days pass behind a sealed envelope. When it opens, the arena reveals his opponent. Her name, the Black Bride, a graduate of one of the continent's finest academies. 2 hands grip the same sword hilt under a blood-red moon, an omen written across the sky. The Black Bride comes from an elite track, the kind that mints knights on command. Next to that, how's he supposed to measure up? Meanwhile, the digging starts. A grizzled contact reports back. The Black Bride's reputation is nothing but trouble, dominant in every match she's fought. Liam just walks past in the background, half listening. Honestly, the old-timer nearly loses it laughing. They call it being totally screwed, he says. Down some alley, 2 strangers aren't convinced. The Black Bride still can't beat Fettel, they mutter, though they don't sound too sure. Fettel used to be one of the best, a swordsman at the very peak of the walkers. But that was then. These days, he holds back even in practice. He uses only the forms Liam can actually handle, all for his own growth. So masters never lied about a sword, not once. He walks past the towering shape only he can see, letting that warning settle in. He tells the empty street he's got his own variables too, a heart forged from steel. His chest and the hilt at his side catch a faint glow. Now, 3 minutes, he figures, tracking the odds street by street. Hold the line that long, and there's a real chance of winning. A hooded shape slides toward the gate, and his eyes lock on. A voice cuts through the dusk behind him. Little gladiator Liam. She lifts her chin, eyes narrowing on him. That's you, isn't it? Meanwhile, the street empties out. Dust drifts across the open ground between them, her red cape the only color against the pale sand. Honestly, he never felt her coming. Not a footstep, not a breath. How does anyone close that kind of distance without a whisper? He throws a glance back over his shoulder, pulse climbing. Jet black hair, an eastern blade at her hip. That has to be the Black Bride, closing in through the wind-torn street. He doesn't know why she's hunting him, and he's not about to hand her a reason. Of course, her sentence trails off, patience running thin. She tells him he's making this difficult. Then her hand blurs. Just like that, steel flicks past his wrist before he can even track it. His eyes go wide, his fist locks tight, sword ripping up on instinct. Was that meant to kill, or just to see if he'd flinch? Turns out it wasn't. It's a test. She settles back, a needle-thin blade loose at her side, and warns him not to waste her time. Not now. Not as a little gladiator. Her robe snaps once, blade flashing between them. She's already read him, she says, his flinch and that odd needle-thin sword giving him away completely. Well, rooftops catch the last daylight while she talks it out. No need to be so guarded, she says. She only came to make a proposal. He wants to know what kind. Forfeit the match. He starts in low and even, the first word catching before the rest lands whole. Don't make a foolish choice. He refuses to forfeit, and the Black Bride gets her answer. She turns from him, cloak snapping in the wind. Don't force me to ruin your future, she warns, flat and cold. The question trails into the dusk behind her. What will he do now? Then the threat gets a name. Pay the price. Her eyes stay red and steady, already decided. Meanwhile, night falls over the city, quiet after the threats. Inside a hall lined with mounted swords, the old caretaker stands facing the wall, arms crossed. He catches movement at the gate. A guest has arrived. Sly and knowing, he already looks pleased. From a tower above, a voice challenges the stranger. What brings him here this late? The caretaker crosses the courtyard himself and knows the hooded shape at once. Young Master Arhan, he says, no question left in it. Arhan bows his head in answer. Quiet. Close on his face, one blue eye catching the light, he starts to speak. But may I? He begins, and stops. Her warning from the street still hangs in the air. Pay the price, she'd said. Her face hasn't softened once, not for a second. There's no mercy. Her voice follows him through the empty street. For an enemy faced with a sword in hand, make a wise judgment, she adds. Then the town swallows the rest. Her words are gone. Even the old ghost admits it, grudging. Most swordsmen slam into the swordwalker wall and stop cold. Not her. For that girl, it won't even be a stumbling block. A true genius, the ghost calls her. And for once, he isn't joking. Arhan's stomach turns. This old ghost never hands out praise that easy, so why start now for an enemy? As I expected, Arhan mutters, sword raised close to his face, eyes narrow. A staircase climbs into cloud and light somewhere in his mind, one step at a time toward whatever's coming. Arhan cracks his knuckles, tension coiled tight in his jaw. Dust drifts through empty air, and the scene holds its breath. From a rooftop above, an old robed figure watches everything unfold, silent and sharp-eyed. Turns out the whole street feels the same urgency. Time doesn't wait, let's hurry. What's waiting for him out there? Two hooded shapes stand apart across the plaza. Dust still settles between them. So this is why he's come, to find a second sword. The old caretaker crosses toward him again, his footsteps the only sound before the dark swallows them. Then the old man looks up, catching the request as it reaches him. Might he borrow a blade from this hall? Tom's eyes go wide. Take a sword from this hall? His voice catches mid-thought, trailing into silence. Turns out the news already got around. Two rising gladiators, one match, everybody's talking. Tom calls it a cruel joke on a talent that's barely started to sprout. Personally, he'd rather young Master Arhan walk away from this one. A new name drops in, the Black Bride. She's out of the Central Plains, the Eastern Continent's proving ground for real talent. Graduated top of her class at Temple, one of the Iron Kingdom's 3 great academies. In the arena, she's buried fighter after fighter without breaking a sweat. Tom's blunt about it. It's too soon for Arhan to stand in front of a wave like that. Get stronger first, he says. Enough to survive the flood, then Arhan can challenge her for real. Tom even offers to train him personally. Arhan just stares, no answer yet. His jaw tightens, words don't come easy, fist trembling against his chest. How tall does this wave have to be to shake him like this? He can't even picture its size. But he prays to the goddess Lepri, and that's where his answer begins. Turning away out of fear would betray his own gladiator heart, and he won't do that. Standing before the wall of blades, he raises his hand. So what's left? Run forever? Honestly, the ask embarrasses him, but he's come anyway. He means to borrow courage from this hall and carry a legendary gladiator spirit into tomorrow's match. 2 blades gleam in the alcove, waiting. His logic's simple, survive, and he keeps a souvenir sword by right. Die, and Tom just reclaims it. No real problem, he judges, either way. He stands there a while, back turned, the full moon hanging low behind him. Naturally, Tom's the one who's guarded the souls enshrined in this hall for years. That duty won't let him say no. Still, he needs to hear it straight. Is Arhan really sure? If trouble comes of this, Tom's got enough pull in the arena to step in. Of course, it's not the first time Tom's pulled this trick. A woman bows low, thanking him through streaming, over-the-top tears. The second she's gone, he's smirking into his beard. Somewhere in memory, an old colleague once told him straight. He'd have made it big as an actor. Well, Arhan just watches, jaw tight, unimpressed. This guy. Tom straightens up, smiling now, twin daggers gleaming on the wall behind him. Then the ghost looms into frame, voice dropping low. Now, he says, all that's left is to devour the power of that sword. The bite finishes what the ghost demanded. Purple fire floods the blade and it sinks into him like breath. Is this what strength finally feels like? Now, the next day dawns over the arena city. By the time the halls fill again, it's already dusk. The card drops. The little gladiator against the black bride. Arhan flexes and roars into it. Beside him, she laughs, sharp teeth bared. Across town, the black bride hears the name and isn't impressed. A mere sword beginner, they call him. Some cheerful informant backs it up with a bright, oblivious smile, insisting the mismatch will simply play better for the crowd. The bride's eyes narrow. Of course it will. That's exactly the problem. Turns out, no. The pitch dies before it even lands. A second woman steps in fast to soften the blow, admitting up front it's an ask nobody would want, then starts dangling a reward to sweeten it. The reward on the table, the dragon sword of the eastern continent, held here as a trophy. The bride's whole body locks up. This reward is no accident, and a shadowed voice confirms it, calling the blade sacred to swordsmen of her home. She says nothing, just tightens her grip on her own hilt. The real reason she fights in this arena, sitting silent behind her eyes. Consent by silence, the woman decides. That's the game played in these halls. Naturally masked now, the bride says she's looking forward to a good match, and she doesn't mean it kindly. It's a proposal she can't refuse, so she settles on the only mercy left to give. She'll end this as a person, not as a gladiator. Behind Arhan, unseen, she walks with her sword held low, Ash drifting past, already grieving a fight that hasn't happened yet. Hours later, in the empty arena, she's already waiting, sword still sheathed, footsteps echoing off the stands. In the end, you still came, she says, already done warning him. The sword finishes what her words don't. Arhan's eyes go wide. What is she doing? Red light rips the dark, blood scatters with it. Something's thrown clean off its feet, a cloak snapping taut over scarred armor as embers drift where the strike landed. Meanwhile, somewhere else entirely, a voice catches the scent of it on the wind, this terrible scent of blood, and turns toward the source. A lone swordsman walks through rain gone red, patient, unhurried, until all that's left of him is a black silhouette and one burning triangular eye. Just then, Liam bites down, and something answers back. A new voice surfaces from the steel, naming itself a citizen of the free city, Cloud. Whose memory is this, now bleeding into his own? Now, the sun sinks over a calm sea, and a lighthouse marks the coast. Cloud. This place broke off from the ruins of the old republic. It became one of the 6 free cities. Once, this same coast was called a paradise, famous for its beauty. 2 boys leap through the surf laughing, a woman in white robes watching on, a memory of better days. So, he tells himself history doesn't matter anymore. Dwelling on it won't fix now. Cloud today is a place where freedom and hope have rotted away. Dead trees, dark birds, a gutted skyline. Near the ruins stands one Gothic house, still lit by lanterns. Inside, an elderly man looms over a bound, kneeling boy, cane in hand and smirking. The boy grits his teeth. He says nothing. Meanwhile, the wider town is nothing but a wasteland now. Empty cobblestone streets, a rusted cart abandoned mid-road, nobody left to walk them. Turns out the rot starts higher up, with the nobles themselves. Masked men toast each other under gold chandeliers, greed and lust their only religion. Somewhere behind closed doors, a hand signs Clouds fade away to the Golden Empire. Well, that deal turns citizens into collateral. Coins rain down. A father screams. A boy bites his nails raw with fear. An official kicks a fallen man in the street, while 2 passersby just smile and walk on. That's how a whole city ends up enslaved. In this life, he's always wondered about one thing. His jaw sets tight in the shadows, the answer's still a beat away. His father is beaten to death begging tourists for scraps. His mother sells her own body so her children won't starve. His sister dies of fever over a few copper coins nobody spared. Now he sits hunched on a stool beside the last body left on the bed. Someone's hand reaches for his in the dark, the only comfort left in that house. Naturally, the answer he's hunting for waits in an unexpected place, a guillotine blade against a stormy sky. Its restraint holes sit empty, waiting for a neck. Is this where the blade's rage was born? A hooded man is marched up the steps in front of a silent crowd. Blindfolded, gagged, locked into the frame, he shakes so hard the crowd can see it. Below, a masked enforcer stomps a citizen flat in the street. That's the memory behind the charge, assault, after he was tormented past what any man could carry. Now the drunk tourist's fists finally cost him something. The citizen's teeth clench, and for once, he doesn't take it. He grabs a green crystal blade and swings, snarling, shards raining with every strike. He stands over a body he never meant to make. The street goes dead quiet. Not this time. Blood spilling here is nothing new, but a dead foreigner is. Turns out a foreign victim changes everything here. The great powers overseas might retaliate, and Cloud can't risk that. Somebody has to pay. A blade flashes in the dark, and they don't wait for a trial. They drag him into the rain, pin him under the beam, and bring the weapon down. Blood hits the stones. Well, Cloud carries out the execution in public, on purpose. It needs an example. He's it. In the crowd, an old woman covers her mouth. He used to be their neighbor. Doesn't matter now. There's no mercy in this city, not for a friend. So, the people watching tell themselves it's necessary. Better one man dead than the whole city paying for foreign anger. They brace for worse, screaming the next night. Instead, Cloud goes silent. No riots, no cries, nothing at all. Day after day, the streets stay empty under a clear sky. Too empty. Something under that silence isn't finished yet. Meanwhile, an old man grabs a young stranger by the shoulder, urgent, scared. He says the city turned its people into slaves, and slaves don't stay quiet forever. Somewhere outside this memory, Arhan feels it land in his own chest. Why does this hurt like it's his? Why can't he look away? One tear breaks loose before he can stop it. The ones they call slaves, he says, hid their fangs the whole time. Now those fangs are showing. He's crying as he says it, like he already knows how this ends. The old man's fear is already standing over him. A stranger, knuckles freshly torn, grins like hurting someone cost him nothing. Now a masked figure walks down stone steps alone, working through his own logic. They could shatter what this city assumes about people like him. In all that violence and despair, he'd found one thing worth admitting. The sin of naught, he starts, and even he can't finish it. Down in the halls, someone carries scales past a guard, like this city still believes in fair judgment. So from a window above, he watches nobles laugh through another gilded party while his city starves below them. Someone has to bleed. He chooses to be that someone. His fist closes around the promise, for the freedom that belongs to everyone, for the price no one else will pay, and he stands over the dome with a dagger reversed in his grip, red letters burning behind him. The moon comes up, a blade mark already cut across the roof, for paradise. The vow finally lands. He tightens his hold on the blade and lifts it into the light. Whatever happens next, that vow is riding on its edge. So, the announcer throws both arms wide, calling the holy duel dedicated to the goddess Lepri. The black bride squares off against the little gladiator. He roars to the stands. She's already gone, a black blur ripping straight across the sand toward him. Steel meets air in a blur of speed lines, nothing else visible for a beat. Arhan's face goes tight mid-exchange, already reading her rhythm as fast as he can. No opening yet. When Arhan first met him, back in memory, the man carried a mercenary's road-worn calm, a life steeped in blood, lived entirely in shadow. That's the mark stamped onto him. Whose instincts are these right now, his own or the dead man's? Now, the black bride says nothing at all behind her horned helm, just watches and waits. This is hard to read, she admits inwardly, but she keeps circling anyway. Nothing's changed, Arhan tells himself. Meanwhile, a blade slashes down hard from above, and for a second it looks clean. He tumbles through open air, blood streaking off him, hit and falling fast, except the killing edge never actually landed on him. The stands suck a breath. He dodged? Her eye goes wide behind the mask, and how, she keeps wondering, gets no answer. Given everything he's shown her so far, this really shouldn't be possible. She watches him dodge a spray of thrown steel in midair like it's nothing at all. Turns out he's not some rookie at all. She realizes something else entirely. Behind his own mask, Arhan's eye stays calm through all the wreckage around him. How much of this fight is even him anymore? Blade fragments drift past slowly, like sparks settling down from a forge. Then her eastern sword flares outward into something with claws and teeth. Of course, Arhan leaps in fast and cuts straight through its clawed, glowing edge. The strike connects clean, but the backlash still throws him hard. Clean cut. He's sent flying backward, sparks trailing off the edge of his blade. Mid-fall, he spins hard, sword raised, turning the drop into an attack. Impact flashes through the dark, debris swirling violently around them both. This time she tells him coldly, even his breathing belongs to someone else. Well, his blade streaks straight toward her, closing the last of the gap fast. Her hand tightens hard on the hilt, ready to counter on instinct. No hesitation. Are you? She starts to ask, and the question just hangs there unfinished. Her glowing blade arcs back in, and the fight doesn't slow down at all. So the strike sends him flying, upside down through the rain. Her blade grazes his face, close enough to draw blood. He charges back anyway. It feels like fighting an assassin and a mercenary at once. Now her stance keeps shifting under the driving rain, refusing to settle twice in a row. Her cloak snaps and twists like two different fighters are sharing one body. He can't get a read on her shifting rhythm at all. Why does every stance change come from nowhere, with no tell at all? One thought lands cold. She passed beginner level a long time ago. Light bursts across the arena the instant her sword connects. He flinches, drenched, rain streaming off his jaw. Bad sign. Well, something shifts behind his eyes as the rain keeps hammering down. He spotted a crack in her rhythm, small but real. She raises her blade, and red light bleeds across the arena floor. His eyes go wide. Is she even still human? He swings first, a full arcing cut aimed to end it. It should land clean. Of course it doesn't. The impact rocks him backward, his own strike turned against him. Hands shaking on the hilt, he hears her voice cut through the rain. I hope you've got more cards left, she says. His blade already carries the scars to prove how many he's used. Meanwhile, up in the stands, one man wonders aloud if our boy can actually win this one. His neighbor reminds him who he's fighting. The invincible gladiator herself, the Black Bride. Then her eye goes cold, and all the warmth drains out of the arena at once. Murderous intent, this sharp feels like it could freeze a soul solid. Something stirs, and two purple blades surface in his mind, glowing and perfectly paired. He knows this weight. This is the Fang. His ancestor's voice rises. This was the world Fang's old master once saw, a mercenary swordswoman and a cold assassin from the Free City Cloud. They lived nothing alike, yet their blades shared one soul, swords of suffocation. Naturally, he sucks in a ragged breath the second the clash lets him go. Steam curls slowly off his skin in the cold falling rain. Slowly, the shaking in his hands finally starts to settle. Turns out the calm never lasts long in a fight like this one. Energy crackles again at the edge of his blade, his stare going flat and focused. His ancestor's voice cuts through the rain. He's calmed down some, the old ghost admits, but the real fight hasn't even started. Worse, that girl read everything about him in one short clash. His grip tightens hard on the hilt, hands trembling under the cloth mask. His ancestor's warning lands heavy in his chest. She's going to hunt him now with everything she's got. So, something fast and pink blurs past before he can place it. The arena opens up around him. All bare stone, no cover to hide an assassin's tricks. A spiked helmet looms out of the dark, patient and merciless. Waiting for her guard to drop isn't an option anymore. Crouched low against the arena wall, he works the angles fast. His best shot now is distance, not stealth. He leaps and slashes through the air, testing the gap. Stall her out, he figures. The 3-minute clock favors him. Play this card right, and he wins the war of patience. Useless. She swats the strike aside like it's nothing. Impact cracks through the air before his mind even catches up. Wait, how does she close a gap that fast? He barely gets his blade up to catch the blow. Their faces end up pressed close, blades locked, breath ragged. Meanwhile, the whole arena leans in. Packed as stands gone dead silent. High above, the last light flashes and fades along the wall. Turns out this is what a real path looks like. Fighters at her level project it outward, carving out ground that favors them. Then turn that same force inward until there's something close to superhuman. Sweat drips down his face as her reflection burns bright in his eye, a curling black slash already ripping toward him. She leaps in again, longsword trailing a whoosh of pressure. He's got maybe a breath to react before it lands. Blades collide, sparks bursting off the block, arms straining under the weight. How is she still speeding up mid-fight? Her power and speed already dwarf where she started this duel. Naturally, even taking a beating, he can't look away. It looks like she's painting the whole world with that blade, he thinks. One long, unbroken stroke. Every motion connects into a single beautiful curve. Then the mask turns, cape snapping, and the fighter behind that painting reveals herself. A blade cuts down through the dark, and the duel's final beat is already ticking. Her eye burns behind the mask, one white slit locking onto him. She's already moving. The blade catches Arhan mid-turn and throws him off his feet. A red ring of light glows around the edge that hit him. How is she already this fast? This sword does more than cut. He barely gets his sword up in time, sparks screaming off the steel. This close, there's no room left to think, only to hold. Now this fighting style has a name, the Sword of the East. It mimics nature itself, wind, snow, running water. So Arhan meets it head on, cutting curved arcs into hers. Every strike connects to the last, one unbroken line. He swings up into her whirl instead of away from it. A shape flickers past, too fast to name. Then Arhan steadies his blade, waiting for the motion to break. Her leg lifts for the next strike, and his eyes narrow, reading it. Sweat runs down his face as light swirls around him, gathering. What is this feeling? Building in both arms at once. Something in him is winding up for one final shot. He spins with sword and dagger both, light trailing the arc. The blade streaks out, blurring the sky behind it. Gotcha, and it connects. Turns out, even she can bleed. She catches the blade barehanded, blood beating over her fingers. The crowd sucks in a breath as one. Up in the stands, word starts moving. The invincible gladiator is bleeding. Behind them both, something clawed reaches up out of the dark. Meanwhile, an old memory rises. A walled estate at dusk, a city far from here. The assassin stands bleeding, still fighting the corrupt officials who own this land. Under the full moon, he tells himself freedom is worth the price. Then he crouches over a body, daggers still dripping in his hand. He remembers a blade at his own throat once, and the flight that followed. Below the rooftops, someone runs through the dark, alone, fleeing again down another alley with no end in sight. He ran, and ran again, and never found the way out. His head snaps toward a sound behind him. Back against the wall, knife out, one tear slips under the hood. Running, he learns, doesn't always mean finding a way out. Dead end. A shadow falls over the wall, and the memory cuts to black. Now, another flash rises, an enemy he could never hope to face. One eye burns red against a wall of flame, a power beyond his own. Robes drift through the embers, sparks catching on the hem. He floats above a crescent of light, only his bandaged feet visible. The assassin swings anyway, sword catching a blast of raw light. The strike leaves streaks burning across the air. Turns out, the masked man is watching closely, one eye narrowed behind a cracked white mask. And yet he thinks, this circle feels like something he's already seen. His blade cracks the stone wall wide open. Light flashes at the point of impact, impact, shards scattering everywhere. The masked man stands over him, victorious, one hand raised uselessly. Meanwhile, the masked man crouches low, spinning his blade in a tight blur near his head. The edge slides close to the assassin's face, close enough to cut skin. The assassin survives this, and later calls the technique his own, a name that fits. Gritted teeth, sweat streaming, he pours everything into the swing. A claw of glowing energy rips through the air and catches the masked man square. He falls, blood spraying, a dying ember of light hanging above him. Back in the present, Arhan swings his blade upward, blood already in the air. He stands alone in an empty arena, wind cutting past him. She watches in silence, eyes sharp behind the mask. A genius, that's what people call her. Arhan lunges, sword raised, he closes the gap in a blink. Well, she studies blood on her glove, almost amused. Somehow he broke through her path and slipped free in a single heartbeat. Close up on her masked face, blades looming behind her like teeth. She doesn't blink. Arhan holds his glowing sword steady, sweat sliding down his scarred cheek. But what will you do now, she taunts. Her fist clenches. She goes silent, just for a second. Naturally, her eye goes wide, one bead of sweat sliding free. This isn't just a man avoiding a killing blow, not anymore. The Black Bride didn't just dodge a fatal hit. Blood sprays her shoulder. She's already countering mid-motion. Blades collide in a blinding flash, and she counters in that same instant. Now Arhan's ribs feel ready to shatter if he moves another inch. Honestly, breathing hurts now, each pull dragging at his ribs. Is there even a wise option left, other than to fall back? But even if it ends in humiliation, as long as he survives, that's enough. What good is pride to a dead man? Up in the crowd, a spectator's eyes go wide behind his glasses, unable to look away. Arhan tightens his grip on the sword. No retreat. Not tonight. Not with everything on the line. Now, a bronze fighter just wounded the undefeated Black Bride. The announcer can't believe it. Out on the floor, the two clash again, harder than before. Blue light streaks across Arhan's face as he locks in. They'll later call this the birth of a star. His strike lands in a burst of motion and flying debris. Honestly, the commentator can't stop grinning, practically yelling at the crowd to look. 10 seconds, that's all Arhan has left. He charges straight through the rain at the masked fighter. The Black Bride looms out of the dark, rain sliding off her spiked mask, and raises her blade over him. For one heartbeat, Arhan just looks up, waiting. Is this it? Blades meet. Behind them, in the wreckage, something new flares to life, a shape nobody here has seen before. Arhan's eyes narrow. What is that? A blade of light streaks across the sky above him, and for a heartbeat, he can't look away. So instead of falling back, Arhan explodes forward, a slash that tears the ground open. Should have been him on the ground. Instead, his blade slams into hers and throws her back. Meanwhile, rain keeps falling on an empty stretch of floor. Even when everyone calls the fight impossible, they always find the answer somehow. Turns out the ancestor is already here, drifting into the frame, calm inside the chaos. Calmly achieving success, the caption reads, like none of this is new to a ghost 2 centuries dead. He swings down and meets Arhan's blade mid-strike without slowing. He calls him Descendant, no sugarcoating it. Genius though, this one isn't. The memory cracks open behind his eyes. A younger Arhan takes hit after hit, while that voice tears into his frail, slow body. Blood sprays with every blow that lands. Well, that's the limit of the vessel he was born with, so the voice says. Arhan crouches low, arms crossed over fresh wounds, bleeding but still standing. Still, he walks forward through the blood and the crackling light. Those who can't find the perfect answer never give up, the old ghost muses. They just keep standing. Heroes, the title card reads over him. Arhan Caravan. The ancestor says his name like it means something for the first time. His eyes crack open in the dark. Somewhere in memory, he lies collapsed in a chasm, alone under broken beams, the boy who lost everything and never let go of his sword. He kneels there now, gripping the hilt in the dark, armor and blade resting side by side. His ancestor's voice cuts through the pain. My descendant. His blade lifts toward the masked queen's head. Then black. Nobody expects the blow to actually land. It does. His blade opens her mask and draws blood, and you is all she can manage. Light explodes at the point of impact, and her horned mask splits down the middle. The blast throws him sideways through the wreckage, shards scattering past her collar. Over her stunned eye, the old voice says he has the makings of a hero. So he follows through with everything he has left. The strike lands, and he comes up grinning, wild-eyed in the drifting sparks. One more slash rips through the air behind him. Was it like this? He's replaying a memory that isn't his, testing if the footwork Mary once owned still fits. He blocks the queen's next strike cold, and this time it's her arm that bleeds. Is this really happening? Even the ghost watching admits the boy suddenly fights like he's dancing. Under the hood, a grin starts to show through the blood spray. Now the old voice softens. He fell short this time, but there's nothing to be disappointed about. The grin under the hood finally shows in full. For today, the old voice says, he's overcome again. The crowd roars as glowing letters blaze across the arena stands. Word is already spreading. This bronze isn't staying bronze for long. Meanwhile, somewhere else, a strange stranger grins into the rain and throws a punch straight at the reader. A fighter goes down spinning as onlookers scatter. Someone lies bloodied under a caped shadow. Well, the stranger stands over the fallen man, sword still sheathed. Hard to hold back once I draw, he mutters. Others call it madness, and he doesn't disagree. Been a while since I felt this thrilled, he says, cutting down in some other ring. Another opponent falls, daggers scattered around him, and all he offers is, I'm so curious. Now Arhan's face is a mess of blood, blonde hair matted red. Is this it? He's down, barely holding on. Out of nowhere, a voice cuts through the dark, calling for the Black Bride. This wasn't part of the deal, it warns. It can't pay what it owes. Her eyes go wide. She starts to answer, then the words die in her throat. A hooded figure raises a glowing blue orb against the night sky. One last chance, it warns her. Just one. Meanwhile, the order comes down, cold as the armor giving it. Cut off his arm, take it as a trophy. A scarred stranger leans in close, red eye glowing, and lays out the price plain. The dragon sword he promised her, or this. Steel hovers, ready. Nobody breathes. A masked knight stands over Arhan's bleeding body and barks the order again. Do it, now. Turns out, disgust wins. The Black Bride's hand curls, her robe snapping in the wind. Disgusting fools, she mutters, and means every word. Her sword slides home with a sharp ring. She turns to walk out, done with the whole arena. One of the knights freezes, sweat breaking on his brow. Sure, his eyes are playing tricks on him. Then a massive glowing 77 burns into the air above the boy, and he has no answer at all. Blue energy explodes around Arhan's raised hand. Just like that, something vast takes shape above him. Who is that? He's too far gone to answer himself. Well, the ancestor spirit isn't sure why he's surfaced now. Maybe it's the boy blacking out. Maybe it's how hard he clashed swords with that girl. Either way, it seems she can actually see him. The spirit unfurls fully now, robes trailing blue light, and his focus shifts. Young girl of the east, he calls out, reaching past the arena walls to find her. Shamans who could truly sense spirits were rare back east, he tells her, but they existed. A fighter's talent paired with a spirit sense like hers isn't something you fake. Arhan's eye flickers blue, catching just a piece of it. Naturally, there's more to it, he adds. Push swordsmanship far enough, all the way to its peak, and a fighter can manifest something called the Mind Sword. A blade of pure blue light tears through the air to prove the point. Every blade wielder in the realm knows one name, Swordmaster Carlos. Countless glowing swords hover behind the man's silhouette like a crown he never takes off. 10 swords, and Carlos climbed all the way to the throne of the greatest swordsman alive. One strike of his carved a canyon clean through an entire town. Seen from above, the scar in the earth still looks fresh. Honestly, the numbers stop meaning anything after a while. Dozens, then hundreds, then thousands, all glowing, all his. They fill the whole sky, no gaps left at all. Of course, a lone hooded figure stands beneath it all, tiny against the swirling storm. Just what this thing even is, some part of them wonders, and gets no answer at all. Then, smiling through it all, an old bearded man steps out of the swirling blades. You still don't have what it takes to understand the answer you're looking for, he tells them. No answers tonight. So the ghost reaches into the blue swirl, speaking straight to Ceylon. A girl with her talent, he says, could someday reach the land of swords, resting place of every blade. Well then, he says, and the sword light behind him surges higher. A crowned, cloaked figure rises inside it, swallowed by blue fire. One streak of light cuts the dark and the vision turns. Legend says a master swordsman reaches heaven's edge and ascends. There, in a land of pure happiness, his lost loved ones wait. One traveler there dreamed only of his family whole again, his precious children, gathered without regret. Now one of them climbs high enough to earn a title, a god of swords. Blood streaks her shoulder as she soars through a starlit sky. Down below, inside Firma's arena, Arhan blinks awake in the recovery room, bandaged and sweating. What just happened? Still, one thought stays fixed through the fog, his dream to reach the pinnacle of the sword. Nearby, Salian watches him without a word, dark eyes unreadable. Turns out she noticed him the instant he went under, the ghost says, stroking his beard. Of course, he decides that means she's captivated, flashing a victory sign like he won something. A fist lands. Meanwhile, his voice catches, quiet all of a sudden, and the room goes still. I do feel a sense of pity, he admits, watching the boy on the bed. At his age, the ghost says, Arhan should know a quiet romance, the plain joys of being young, not this. For a moment, the vision softens, sunlit trees, two hands laced together, a life untouched by war. Then it's gone, and only a sword rests by the bed where his hand should be free. Was his own path born from a past soaked in blood, he wonders, or some foul, clinging fate? The vision turns back to Arhan himself, standing in shadow, eyes hidden, saying nothing. His clothes are cut and worn in that vision, a record of fights nobody asked about. The cloak at his collar hangs ragged, frayed thin by all of it. Once a path is chosen, the ghost says, every regret must be cast aside. So a fighter like her already rates him. Arhan turns that over, breath still ragged. What does someone at her level even want with him? Whatever it is, it runs both ways. She needs him too. The woman in black spins into view, just her skirts catching the light for now. Whoever she really is, the panel saving her face for later. He kneels by her, takes her hand, and catches the wrong word in his his mouth. Black Bride isn't who she is to him anymore. Seolyun, that's the name he uses. Then he trades her something real for it, his actual name. My name is Arhan, he tells her. Mask talk finally dropped. A small, easy smile settles in, like the weights off his chest. The arena stands quiet under a wide sky behind them. Somewhere off panel, she answers him plainly. I look forward to it too. Deal struck, plain and simple. Now the road takes over. Two travelers, one creaking cart, mountains rolling by on the way home. Seolyun, he starts, and already it sounds wrong in his own ears. He warns her this is going to sound strange. Please hear me out, he says, before you jump to conclusions. Looming over her from behind, he tries again. There are things about him he can't explain, and they're not up for discussion today. So he cuts to it plainly. I can't become your lover, he says, hand half over his own mouth like he can't believe he said it out loud. Dead quiet in the wagon after that. Lantern swinging, nobody saying a word, just the shadows moving. Of course, she says she'd worked that out long before he opened his mouth. He sighs into his hands, equal parts relieved and mortified. She's still just sitting there staring off, entirely unbothered by any of it. Fine, he decides, not his type either. That will absolutely never happen. He snaps, fist clenched near his own face. Beside him, the old ghost is laughing, arms crossed, thoroughly enjoying this. Turns out she just states it herself, plain and unbothered. Tall, built, sharp features. Our boy visibly wilts with every word. Then the ancestor twists the knife. Nothing wrong with that type, he says. It's just not hers. He wonders if that needs any more explaining. Rough. No, Arhan manages, forcing the smile flat. That's plenty, thanks. Someone else in the background is shaking just as hard. Honestly, she changes the subject before he can recover. A knight moved in nearby not long ago, she tells him, flashing a peace sign. Skilled, and better than that, good-natured, she says, beyond just the sword work. The words hang there over a streak of red light, waiting to be undercut. Meanwhile, the man she means is walking a field of corpses right now. Sword still in hand, blood dried across his face. A body lies face down nearby, one of the men who came looking for a fight. He's a very kind person, the narration insists, right over that same bloodied face. Then he turns his back and walks off into the dark. Red light bleeds through the smoke, blade-shaped, and the scene cuts away. Now, back on the road, Arhan's hand tightens on his own shoulder. He says he sees it now, quiet, none too pleased. What exactly has been happening back home while he was gone? She nods toward the daggers strapped across his back. That, for instance, she says, she wants to know where it came from. His old blade cracked in his last match, so he grabbed a spare while he had the coin for it. Forge smoke curls behind him, the memory still fresh. Of course, the ghost isn't done needling him. Arhan winces over what the new dagger cost. Quit whining, descendant, the old man snaps. Well, they finally made it back to the mansion. Something huge and cloaked looms in the trees behind them, and neither one notices. A shadow lingers at the edge of the clearing. Then a hand closes on Arhan's shoulder from behind, and he jerks around, wide-eyed. Who's grabbing him? Turns out it's just Fettel. He's standing over the bodies of whoever tried something, blade still in hand. Honestly, the man can bleed and joke at once. Impressive, really. He coughs, calls the whole mess embarrassing, then grins. He's already guessed Seolyun's the new neighbor Arhan's been talking about. He apologizes for meeting her looking like this, coughing mid-sentence. Seolyun tells him it's fine, to just catch his breath. Her eyes stay sharp the whole time, reading him. Two bodies lie in the dirt behind him. Proof enough. Arhan clenches his jaw watching one more figure walk the road toward them, calm and unhurried. He turns sharp at the sound behind him. So, the three of them head inside for the full account. Fatal sets down a cup of water and starts from the beginning. Quite a few uninvited guests, he says, dropping into his seat across the table. It never turned into a real fight, not at first. Trouble started a week back. Now picture it. Fatal wading into raiders sharper than the village has ever faced. Hooded men scattered, one swings an axe straight for his skull. These aren't small-time thieves anymore, he says. Higher caliber, better armed. Every time, he tries a warning first, sword still sheathed if he can manage it. One raider lifts his blade to finish it anyway. Somewhere else, a masked thug corners a terrified village woman, weapon drawn. So bloodshed was inevitable, Fettel says flatly, and that's the last of the warnings. Well, back at the table, Arhan and Seolyun just listen, grim-faced. Fettel sips his water and lays out his read on it. These aren't ordinary bandits. Blood red light, a wolf snarling somewhere in the telling. They've got a name now, the Red Wolf Brotherhood. Since when do bandits earn one of those? That's what they call themselves. Fidel confirms. Someone asks if orders are coming from higher up. The answer's a simple nod. Real knightly orders earn names like the Blue Lion, the Black Lynx, the Pure White Snake, each one meaning something. Naturally, Arhan bristles. He calls it exactly what it is. Bandits playing dress-up with a tradition that isn't theirs. Not theirs to imitate, he says, jaw tight. The pendant at his throat isn't just habit. Struck into the metal, a stag caught mid-leap. Arhan doesn't explain why he's still holding it. So Seolyun weighs it out loud, arms crossed, voice flat. Either this bandit group is freakishly large, she says. Or their leader is something else entirely. Bad math either way. In her mind's eye, a horned, tattooed giant grips a glowing blade like it weighs nothing. Skilled enough, she finishes, to look down on knights. That's the kind of leader this brotherhood might have. Arhan just listens, jaw tight, filing every word away. What kind of leader draws men bold enough to attack a swordwalker? The more he hears, the less he likes it. Not a good sign. A blue glow flares beside him mid-thought, and he flinches hard. It's the ancestor, voice cutting straight into his skull. Use the fang, he orders, and erase these arrogant fools. Arhan freezes. Well, then the ghost adds the real challenge, smug as ever. With your own strength alone, he says. No neighbors doing the work for him this time. Elsewhere in the intel, two of the bandits grin about their boldest hit yet. They'd gone after a swordwalker, they boast, Sir Fettel himself. Not exactly small-time thugs. Arhan turns an old line over in his head. Steel gets stronger the more it's hammered. Is that what all this pressure is doing to him? Standing beside his ancestor's looming shape, Arhan hears the real offer. Pull this off alone and he'll finally forge his own path, instead of just copying everyone else's. In his mind, something like a blade of light bursts skyward, proof of what that could look like. Meanwhile, miles off, under that same pale light, a young man's head snaps up. His eyes go wide. Something's wrong with that sky. Not natural at all. Somewhere else entirely, in a lavish drawing room, two men sit across from a third. That third man's face stays composed, but his eyes give him away, tense and alarmed. Do you happen to know? The other one asks, leaning in close. The question just hangs there, unanswered. Now a different night, a different stretch of woods. Three armed men walk single file down a mountain road, one carrying a torch, swords ready at their hips. One of them, new to the unit, gets ribbed for being green. The captain's taste runs strange, the scarred one warns him. Honestly, that's putting it kindly. Then the captain himself steps into view. The joking stops. Bandaged head, skull-white face paint, a wall of fire burning right beside him. Two others trade gossip while they walk. One laughs off a rumor about some dark mage living nearby, calls it nonsense. Turns out the place is just an empty, looted-out ruin. Nothing worth the trip. Even so, they agree, no job site ever looked quite like this one once the captain finished it. One voice remembers it differently. A woman dragged, restrained, screaming. To him, it was a hell of a lot of fun. He grins, boasting he stayed there like the famous Steel Count once did. Nothing here is funny. He keeps going, grinning wider, boasting he'd have 10 women of his own by now if they'd only stayed. Just thinking about it, he says, gets him hot. Whatever these men call fun, it's exactly why Arhan won't be showing them any mercy. The complaining doesn't stop. One of the patrol keeps groping at his own collar, restless. He's sweating, whining he hasn't touched a woman in weeks. Then a blade cuts him off mid-word. A hand clamps over his mouth and blood sprays into the dark. The killer's already gone, just a red glint vanishing through the trees. Down the line, another scout lifts his torch, peering into black trees. Something's out there, he mutters. The dark doesn't answer. A shape drops from the smoke, upside down, blade first. Two bandits already lie crumpled in their own blood below. Fire swallows the scene a heartbeat later, hiding whatever happens next. Another man looks up and freezes. A symbol burns in the air above his head. Blue-white, meaningless to him. He barely gets a sound out before the shadows take him too. So somewhere behind him, a villager screams. Torch flaring, the whole patrol scatters into chaos. A blade flashes in, sparks screaming off the contact point. It slices clean through the dark a second later, and something falls. Meanwhile, Arhan watches from the tree line, hair whipping in the wind. What in the world is that, he wonders. He can't move. Up close, the hooded killer's stare doesn't waver, lit blue against the night. Another soldier drops to his knees, weapon burning in his grip, shaking too hard to stand. So fast he gasps, I couldn't even see it. Now the one who did it stands over him, sword still glowing, calm as anything. Turns out there's a scarred, grinning face under that hood, and they aren't shy about any of it. The patrol gets mocked for lighting torches and walking straight into an ambush. The men already killed apparently didn't even count. Blood keeps hitting the ground. One wounded fighter screams through tears, teeth gritted, and another strike lands somewhere just out of frame. Then a bloodied hand grabs Arhan by the face hard. What is this? Is all he has time to think. The grip tightens, and the glowing eyes lean in close. They came hunting the dark mage the rumors warned about, ready to finish it. Then they stop cold. It's not a dark mage, just a kid. Though those eyes aren't right for a farm brat. Well, one word hangs over the moonlit trees, cooperate. So the campfire burns down to embers, and someone's left lying motionless beside it, alone until morning. Back at the manor, Fettel can't believe what he's hearing. Arhan asked for the bandits' hideout. A servant confirms it, plain as that. Now the room goes quiet, and someone's face stays half in shadow, waiting for what comes next. Fettel finally slams both hands on the table, furious, veins standing out on his neck. He's shouting now straight at Arhan, and he isn't holding back. Just then, across the room, a servant stands with her arms crossed, watching in silence, tense and clearly worried. Fettel doubles over mid-warning, racked by a sudden fit of coughing. There's no reason he insists for Arhan to go anywhere near that danger. His coughing echoes through the otherwise empty room, sharp and painful to hear. The servant catches him before he collapses, blood already staining his hand. Even bloodied, Fettel forces out one more warning before his strength gives. "These bandits aren't ordinary," he says, voice cracking. "They're hiding something no one has seen yet." "I'm sorry, Sir Fettel," Arhan says quietly, hood pulled low over his eyes, but he can't bring himself to make that promise. Now the night bends into something darker than the room he's standing in. In the dream, Fettel already lies still, blood pooling at his mouth. A hooded figure stands over him like the fight is already decided. Is this what's coming for him too? Turns out the voice circling in the dark is a familiar one. The bearded ghost paces around the hooded figure, unbothered by the blood. "You've gotten used to this kingdom's laws fast," he murmurs. The hood tips back just enough to show a scar cut across his collar. A blade rips free of its sheath in one spinning motion, glowing blue. No future troubles left standing behind him, the hunter vows. A hooded woman glances back over her shoulder, doubting the plan out loud. Her hand is still raw from whatever she tore out of a captured prisoner. The intel is bad. Their captain used to wear a knight's colors before he ran. Now the orders call men like him a runaway dog, deserters who chose flight over an oath. Word going around says he's a swordwalker too. The ghost doesn't let it go so easily. Twice already, a walker has put Arhan flat on his back. Will a third fight go any different, he wonders, watching the moonlight. The old man just grins, waiting on an answer he already expects. Arhan doesn't blink. Under a full moon, he gives the only answer that ever mattered to him. Of course not. The dream doesn't end there, not yet. A lone figure in armor walks past a body left in the trees like it means nothing at all. Somewhere in the blur that follows, blood soaks slowly into pale white cloth. Now Arhan jolts upright on the couch, alone in a moonlit room. The floor is bare, the house has gone completely quiet. Somewhere behind his eyes, a clawed hand is still reaching for a face he can't quite place. Meanwhile, a memory surfaces on its own. From somewhere far from this room, a girl walks alone beneath the shade of a huge tree. Everyone, she says, tells her that Fettel is someone she can always trust. Then an armored shoulder turns slowly through the grass at sunset, unaware of what's coming. A blade cuts past it in one bright streak of light, and the memory ends before it can answer. So, in the dream, that same vow plays out again. Arhan lies in the dark, sweating, catching his own bitter echo, just like the protagonist of a chivalric romance. His jaws clenched, dread thick in the dark. Is this memory, or just a nightmare feeding on him? The words blur into foreign text, then fade into a lone shape drifting against a bruised sky. Celian's eyes snap open, alarm cutting through sleep. She's up fast, hand on her sword, she says, "Knight, get up, we have guests." Fettel forces himself upright behind her, buckling on his gear despite the sickness dragging at him. She tells him not to worry, calm as still water. Now an elephant and cross banners snaps in the wind. Cavalry thunder through the dark. They close fast on the two figures waiting at the gate. A knight draws his blade. He orders them to answer, no arguments. Arhan's eyes narrow, Celian close behind him, worried. Turns out he's hunting a runaway dog, the knight says plain. Arhan catches a blurred shape flicker at the tree line. Is that his ancestor watching, or something worse? The knight leans in, a glowing blue chain coiled near his throat, demanding answers now. A title card names him plain, Vice Captain of the Yellow Elephant Knights, Meccan. Meanwhile, the knight rolls forward into the mountains. A mounted escort reins in before two cloaked travelers. That's all I know about the Red Wolf, Arhan says, enough to send them off. The knight presses further, asks if they rode all this way just to wipe the bandits out. Either way, he says, the rumors already reached the capital. Meccan scowls. Someone's mocking his family's name with that Red Wolf title. Of course, the intel's barely useful either. Just somewhere in the mountains, nothing more. The informant can only apologize, and Meccan answers with silence, cold and heavy. A dark-haired figure glances back sharply, hair whipping in the wind. One of them wonders aloud, Fettel, was that his name? Well, Meccan's grin spreads wide, he remembers now. He starts into the story. A man once granted a title despite being nothing but a swordwalker. Always the paragon, he sneers, of an honorable knight. Turns out the title comes with its own ghost story. A glowing stag rises out of the dark woods, all antler and blue light. They called him the loyal Fettel of the Green Deer. Struck down by disease no one could cure, Meccan sneers, then dumped by the lord he bled for. Fettel stands rigid and lets it land. A sick dog. One of the knights flinches at that, and a senior in the ranks catches him staring. Bad luck to stare, apparently. No, it's just the junior stammers and swallows the rest. The words paint the picture too. Fettel falling through fire while Meccan circles above, already laughing. Of my wings, he mocks, still dreaming of those at death's door. Reach sword runner, spread real wings, and none of this happens, he sneers, eyeing the limp, bloodied hand. Now the armor leans in, red eye slits narrowing, voice all mock patience. He asks if it's finally time Fettel accepted the truth. Fate never chose him, and each day just makes it worse. The question hangs there, meant to cut deeper than any blade. Fettel's face stays in shadow, jaw locked, a storm held on a leash. Controlled fury, nothing more. more. Fettel begs her to hold back, weak but urgent. Her hand is already at the hilt. Seolyun stands tense outside the mansion, grip tight on the blade hidden under her cloak. "I'm fine," she says, and her trembling hand says otherwise. "What a wonderful caregiver you have," Mekan purrs at Fettel, "a pretty girl from the eastern continent. At least you won't die alone," he adds. Crueler than the disease itself. Well, entertaining enough, Mekan decides, already bored. He calls the order to ride out. Just like that, he's done toying with them. So the real hunt starts. Scale the mountain before sunrise. Run down that runaway dog. The column rides out through the mist, banners and all, toward the peak. Arhan watches the column ride out and goes very still. Why give them the head start? How long has he swallowed that itch to move first? Then his fist ignites, gold flame licking up his arm. This guy doesn't wait for anyone's permission. One narrowed eye tracks the sparks fading over the ridge. He says nothing at all. Meanwhile, Fettel lets out a long breath on the balcony, sword still strapped at his hip. A fool to the bitter end, he calls himself, quiet and tired. Then he straightens. Wait a minute. Where's young Master Arhan, he asks, with all this commotion right outside. Seolion's eyes stay fixed on the tree line. He'd never sit still through this, so why hasn't he shown his face? Fettel's face goes white, sweat beading. Don't tell me, did he go to their hideout alone? Rain sheets down over the mountains, and somewhere in it, Arhan is already moving. Something ignites inside him. Twin blades of light, the fang's hunger stirring awake. Meanwhile, in the Red Wolf camp, a guard gripes about drawing duty on a night like this. Still beats worse posts, he mutters. Down the path, another watchman yawns, noting the patrol's back right on schedule. A guard's eyes snag on something wrong. Bare feet stepping out of the black. He barely gets a word out before the figure keeps coming, slow and silent, face lost in shadow. Turns out it's the guide he forced into leading him here. Arhan wants to know why he's alone, where his squad went. The man stammers he only did as he was told. "So please let me live," the man begs as the claws close on his face. Under the moon, the blade falls. The plea never finishes. Now, elsewhere in camp, a bald sentry drops mid-step, blood spraying from a wound he never saw. For a second, his own hand doesn't feel like his. Blade lifted to his mouth the way the Fang's first master once held it. The memory grips him anyway, so another guard barely gets out a startled sound before a blue glowing blade punches clean through his chest. He's still falling. The shape below finishes the job. By then, two more guards lie face down against the wall, bleeding out. In the dark, one question keeps turning over in him. Why the Fang, out of every blade in that Hall of Fame? Not against elite knights in full plate, built for a clean fight. Think of an arena veteran instead. Sword high, hammer ready, trained to win loud and fair. But what if it isn't a fair fight? What if it's kill or die? Honor stops mattering then. It's about playing dirty, and these men never even drew their weapons. A shadow slips past the barrels, something dripping in its wake. Moments later, more men lie sprawled in the mist, struck down the second their guard slipped. Or it's the blind spot. The dagger's already rising over a body that hasn't finished falling. Meanwhile, night rolls on, and somewhere past a torn tent flap, Arhan steps back out into the dark. Of course, the rule was always simple. Whoever lands the killing blow first survives. A wounded man is dragged back, blade close to his throat. That's the fact the assassin in him lives by. Now, the eye behind the mask never blinks. It plans for every way to fail, so the kill lands clean. Down the long torch row, a red wolf grunt weaves his way home. Drunk, grinning, still buzzing from the last round. Turns out that grin is his last. The blade drives straight down through his skull before he even finishes the thought. Steel bursts up through the roof beam, black in the moonlight, buried to the hilt. Above it, Arhan stands calm. One hand still rests on the grip. White flashes once. A word cuts off mid-sentence, and his own cold voice finishes it instead. "This suits me perfectly," he says, blood already drying on his glove. Since when does he smile at blood on his own hands? Another lies still in a spreading pool, sword planted beside him like a marker. Arhan turns to a wall painted red, a body's shape stamped into the spray behind it. How many more before this whole camp goes quiet? Meanwhile, deep in camp, Murphy sits up in the dark. He buckles his belt slowly, grin already curling before he's even fully awake. Something out there just changed, and his body knows it before his mind does. One red eye narrows slowly in the black. Down the row, a lieutenant claws a hand over his own mouth, catching the same scent. "Blood," he mutters, not from the cookfire this time. So the panic starts on the far side of the sleeping camp. A young bandit looks up at an empty yard and feels his skin go cold. Around the corner, a hooded man freezes too, breath catching in his throat. He rounds into a room stacked with his own dead. A survivor stumbles out, face streaked red, swearing they were only drinking an hour ago. Another runs to him through the fresh blood trail, boots slipping in it. They crouch by a corpse with no mark of a fight on him, not one. Whoever did this never once gave the man a chance to draw. The count climbs, 4, then 5, a voice cracking on every number. "Get out," someone finally shouts into the dark, and for a second it feels possible. Then a shape drops from the rafters, hanging upside down, perfectly relaxed. "What's all the fuss about?" he asks, like he's got nowhere else to be. A man reaching for the word captain never gets to finish it. Behind him, another takes up the call anyway, voice breaking on it. Naturally, it's Murphy who steps into the light first, one red eye already narrow on the scene. Two of his men stand frozen around a body neither one wants to touch. He says he wondered why the stench of blood was so thick, and nobody answers him. The dead man at his feet has already stopped bleeding into the stone. Murphy's fist closes. Fire the color of blood crawls slowly up his arm. Behind him, a glowing mark burns slowly to life. His power detonates first. Red lightning peels off his skin and throws him back a step. He counts the dead flat and cold. 4, 5, 6, then swings blind into the dark. From the shadows, the old ghost asks what he makes of that path. What is a captain's fury worth, really, against something that can't be sensed? Yes, master, he finally answers, and nothing more. He lifts one hand, hood swallowing his face whole. Then he settles into the dark himself, one more shadow among the trees. Now for the lesson. The path is the core that turns a swordwalker into something more than human. Projected outward, it senses every enemy in range before a blade ever moves. It works as a second sense and a weapon in its own right. Right now, the runaway dog's own path burns red and wild for anyone to read. The old ghost starts to say what true mastery costs, then stops. Turns out, a swordwalker's whole level shows in his path, no hiding it. The ghost looks the runaway dog over from the shadows. His verdict lands flat, pathetic. Compared to Sir Fettel and Celian, this is nothing. Every branch of Fettel's path ran straight and solid, an impenetrable wall no one broke through. Celian's path, by contrast, moved like art. 6 paths, the ghost decides, and that's all this one has. He mentions the genius from the east again, and Fettel, weakened as he was. Then the thought trails off. Well, he tells Arhan straight, you did well to survive opponents like that, young descendant, but skill alone never decided who lives, he warns, and who dies. Don't worry, Arhan says, and means it. Shapes drift through blue mist, hard to place. What's still out there, waiting past the dark? He won't let his guard down, not for 1 second. Meanwhile, back in camp, the runaway dog crouches between 2 of his own men, feral and coiled. One of them begs to run, and he cuts him off cold. He calls the whole lot of them useless. Fangs bare under the rain, feral and sharp. His men flinch back, soaked. Then he looms over a bound prisoner and snarls. Does this really look like dark magic to you? Murphy studies the wreckage and calls it an assassin's work. A soldier stammers, just one person? He can't sense them with his path, and that means they're hiding well. Turns out patience isn't on tonight's menu. He orders every man left to gather and hunt the killer down. I'll feed you all to the dogs, he warns, and carves the threat into the wall to make sure it sticks. 2 of his men flinch, sweat cold on their necks. They scramble to obey. No one argues. Now a tracker throws up her hand, and a rune flares blue against the storm. She and her masked partner tear into the tunnel dark, chasing a trail only that glow can read. Meanwhile, Murphy turns the suspect list over in his head. Hiring a killer this good isn't cheap, and it's not the Yellow Elephant style. He remembers a village, a child cowering under his fist, and wonders if that family finally came for him. Or maybe it's simpler. Could be the merchant convoy he slaughtered just for the fun of it. He grins through the memory, blood still drying on his knuckles. He laughs low over another kill, claws of light still hanging in the air behind him. Past a gap in the curtain, someone unseen watches him work, and he never notices. Another face stares up at him, already empty. He looms over it, smirking, already bored. Blood pools wider around a body that stopped moving. His eye flares red. He savors the pause before the finish. One flash of steel and it's done. He stands over the last body of the memory, already looking past it. So the memory breaks, and Murphy is back in his own dark camp. 2 of his men dead at his feet without a mark of struggle. When did this happen? Why is every fire in the camp already out? Murphy bares his fangs at something too small to see. Fury takes him, horns catching the moonlight, one eye burning red. He lunges, and steel connects. It isn't. A shape drops from above, blade already falling before he can turn. Steel opens his shoulder, blood spraying past his own wide eye, close enough that a heartbeat slower would have cost him his head. Now Murphy swings hard, back turned on the shape behind him. To him, it moves like it's one with the darkness. So the shadow answers him plain. I am an assassin of cloud, it says, violet fire wreathing the blade as it cuts the black. Under the hood, Arhan's eyes burn ice blue, and for once he isn't hiding what he's become. The darkness, he says, is his ally now. Meanwhile, far off, the moon hangs quiet over the mountains, mist curling low through the trees. Celian is already moving through it, mask fixed tight over her face. Behind her, a retainer struggles to keep pace, sweat soaking through his collar. Honestly, she doesn't bother softening it. The young master can't handle this one alone. The dark blurs past them in a rush. The retainer wipes sweat from his brow, muttering that brilliant or not, the boy's still just a novice. Another voice agrees, just as worried. He needs more time before he ever faces a swordwalker. Somewhere else under that same moon, someone reacts to the news in open shock. A masked stranger tells a hooded girl the little gladiator is more than just some sprout. He starts to say the boy's talent has already changed something, then stops himself cold. Just like that, the rumor outruns the truth, moving faster than Arhan himself. Well, the standoff starts the way it always does. A hooded shape stands motionless in the trees, one eye catching the light. Murphy charges in blade first, recognizing him on sight. You're a high-priced assassin, he snarls, red eye narrowing. He runs through every guild he's wronged, every woman he's crossed, hunting for a name that fits. Arhan turns the question on himself too. Unlikely, he thinks, but could this be the damn yellow elephant's work? A demand cuts through the dark. Answer him now. No answer comes. Murphy grips his blade tighter, one red eye glowing, and warns that resisting will only make this more fun for him. Somewhere under the moon, a scream tears loose, then the whole world goes white. Now the light shifts, and a figure steps out, blade glowing, scar dark on his cheek. How much of the assassin has he let into himself by now? Across from him, Murphy goes still, sweat sliding down his skin. He knows exactly what he's facing this time. Murphy laughs first, ugly and short, digging his own nails into his face. Every man he brought into camp is dead, and this stranger came to finish it. Turns out he's still not convinced, sneering that it's only a brat who reeks of milk. He starts to say this is truly something, but he never finishes. Ridiculous. A voice cuts in first, and it isn't his. Murphy's grin splits wide, red eyes catching the light, teeth on full display. A clawed hand reaches into the dark. Words haven't landed yet. Well, he doesn't know what trick kept him missing this long. Doesn't matter now, the target's shown itself. That's the last mistake it gets, he swears. His whole arm rockets forward, cracked and glowing, straight for where Arhan stands. Arhan holds his ground as red-white light explodes between him and that tattooed fist. The chain weapon whips down through the smoke, Murphy screaming for him to die. Somewhere in that blur, a blade glides past like it's cutting open sky. Murphy's eyes go wide, sweat streaking down his scarred face. I lost him, he stammers, and he never even looked away. Then blood sprays across his jaw before he can finish the sentence. Of course it's Arhan, spinning out of the dark midair, cloak flaring, blade already trailing light, mystery solved. Murphy just found out who's been cutting him this whole time. He grunts in pain as the next slash lands, blood spraying wide. It throws him back hard. Debris and broken light scatter behind him. Honestly, floating in his own blood, he can't make sense of it. No matter how rough his own path is, this shouldn't be possible. Not even once. Then it hits him. Arhan isn't using a path to fight him at all. Naturally, Arhan's not there one instant. Then he's already through. He closes the gap before Murphy's path can even register the shift. The blade punches clean through Murphy's guard like it isn't even there. Another hit lands, blood streaking across armor and dark. He's losing count. Now Arhan's eye catches the light. That strange mark on his face glowing faint blue. In carrying out this, was he ever really fighting fair? Or is he just borrowing someone else's ghost to win? It's a memory bleeding through, not his own. Two cloaked shapes walk a torchlit street. Exaggerate the presence first, every breath and step turn to camouflage. Then the blade finds someone asleep before they even wake. Then Murphy gets one in. A weapon flashes past Arhan's head and he reels, caught for the first time all fight. So Arhan tears through the dark in a blur of light, fighting off another blade in the chaos. In his head, he's already running through the exact plan Murphy can't see coming. First, make his presence loud. Every breath, every rustle of cloth, all of it laid out on purpose, so that when the enemy finally reads him, all they read is a lie. A fireball rips toward him from behind, and he never lets on that he's noticed. The enemy's senses spin out instead, all five thrown into confusion at once. A single drop of sweat falls, alone in the dark. Sweat rolls slow down the enemy's chin, jaw locked tight with strain. A blade catches the falling drop mid-air, glowing pale blue. It's already moving in. Turns out the blade carries memories of its own, and one bleeds through now. A rooftop somewhere else, a stranger's throat opening the same way, blood arcing into the night. Then it lets go, and Arhan is back among the trees. Blades meet again, and this time Murphy comes away bleeding from the shoulder. Something's wrong. Even against a green swordwalker, none of this makes any sense to him. For one long moment, Arhan's face just drops, gone silent. Then it flips. Blood sprays across his hair and shoulder before he even sees the strike coming. Now Murphy goes all in, glowing blade screaming forward. He wants Arhan's throat open before Arhan can finish whatever this is. Arhan's counter gets there first, blade coming down square on Murphy's skull. Murphy's eye flares red, sensing the danger a beat too late. Wild red hair whips past just as Arhan's own eye narrows to match it. The two strikes collide and the whole clearing goes white. Arhan swings once more, and this time the blow connects clean. Murphy goes down, tattoos crawling up his fallen arm, half hidden in shadow. What is this thing under his skin? A flash, and the shadow peels back to show what's underneath. Horned, furred, fanged, and grinning through all the blood. A beast? Meanwhile, a different patch of forest sits wrapped in mist and silence. Footsteps crunch over wet grass, slow and deliberate, still far from camp. Two knights in matching blue plate ride out of the fog. One of them has a question for the vice captain riding beside him. The horses trot on through the mist, waiting for an answer. So one of the riders can't let it go. Why throw this many men at a single runaway dog? Higher-ups made the call, the vice captain says, and that's all he's got. Their commander just rides on ahead, smirking like he already knows why. Now the story jumps back. A beaten knight kneels in the dark, a blade still lodged in his back. That's Murphy. The voice beside him says, nothing but a stray dog at rock bottom now. But when it comes to killing, he's a total beast. Back when he was still a knight, the voice goes on. This is where it started. A knight stands over him, blade already dripping red. This is where Murphy turns. Berserker. He clamps his teeth around the incoming blade and it holds. The onlooker can't believe what he's seeing. An assassin's killing strike, stopped by teeth alone. What kind of bite force does that take? The fight in the present hasn't paused for any of this. Arhan's blade meets Murphy's clawed, feathered bulk head on, and his eyes go wide. What is he even fighting anymore? He presses the attack, glowing steel biting through the guard, blood spraying with the strike. Murphy staggers back, his monstrous wings shredding apart mid-air. Arhan's blue eyes flash through another fast slash, blood spraying across his vision. How is Murphy even still on his feet? Steel meets steel again and again in a blur too fast to follow. Then the two of them collide mid-air in one explosive burst of light. The ground beneath them cracks open, debris and blood thrown wide by the shockwave. Blades keep clashing, blood and debris flying with every hit. Turns out someone's watching. What they see stuns them. His power, his speed, nothing like they were a moment ago. Arhan grits his teeth through the strain, blood flying past his face. His fist clenches tight, gathering everything he's got left. Murphy roars back. A wall of raw, monstrous energy bursts outward. Well, that focus doesn't last. Fist and blade collide in a shower of debris, and this time it's Murphy's claw that gets through. Arhan grits his teeth against the force, but the blow lands hard, and he's thrown back with a crack of sound. A last burst of wind and claws tears through the dark. Then, silence. Just the echo of impact hanging over a battlefield gone red. So the clash rips the air apart in a burst of red light and flying debris. Murphy takes the worst of it and staggers back, hurt. Arhan drives a strike straight into the red glow, and it answers back in white. The blast throws him back, robes trailing smoke, his eye going wide before he lands. Murphy's already back up, hair wild, eyes burning red. He swings a blade too big for one arm like it's nothing. Smoke and mist settle low over the wrecked camp, the fight's aftermath hanging in the dark. Now, under his hood, Arhan's still breathing hard, sweat running, blue eyes sharp and watching. He's down on one knee in the wreckage, and he can't get his breath back. Is this even possible? The thought hits him hard. Murphy's style and his aura were already vicious enough. Turns out Murphy's gone past that now. He bares his teeth and roars, dark energy already climbing up his arms. It swallows him whole, hair whipping, eyes bleached white, mist swirling red around his blade. He's stronger now, faster. The air around him turns jagged, red and black, violence given shape. Arhan's seen this before, in the dagger's memories. Fighters who lose all conviction, drunk on bloodlust, moving like something less than human. Lose your reason, gain raw power, and the only cure is finishing what the Fang started. He goes still. No more waiting. Well, blades crash together hard enough to shatter one clean through. Murphy drives in on him. Teeth bared, no more testing now, just blade on blade. They lock close, grip on grip, until the dark swallows the panel whole. Murphy roars through the block, forcing him back step by step, sparks bursting at every clash. Is he finally about to break through? Arhan answers by driving into the gap instead. A hard strike straight into him. Murphy's eye flares red under his hood, and he doesn't wait. He drops a strike like a wall of red light on the man pinned beneath him. Naturally, Arhan's already moving, launching off the ground with the Fang's dagger aimed straight down. Murphy roars, furious, caught mid-swing. Steel meets steel right on his blade. Then it's just speed, strike after strike, too fast to call. So he locks onto one plan. I'll focus my defense on parrying and deflecting, he decides, waiting for an opening instead of forcing one. A blade flashes by his face, close enough to draw blood. Arhan's mind keeps racing between strikes. Break the bones, or this fight never ends. So steel meets steel again, sparks tearing through the dark. His blade flares blue faster than the last pass. It connects with a sharp splitting crack. The clash blows open. Light, then flying debris. Something in it lets out a pained gasp. Now Murphy roars back through the wreckage, wild-manned, one eye burning red. Light cuts across his face like claw marks already scored there. Arhan goes still for one breath, dagger low, reading the opening. Then he drops in low and fast, blade angled for the throat. Murphy roars and swings a clawed hand up to meet it. Meanwhile, the two of them blur into one shape. Nothing but motion. A claw gets through, blood sprays across his shoulder, and the force throws him backward into the dark. Then, black. Turns out Murphy isn't finished roaring. He looks out over the wrecked camp like he already owns it. Then his eye narrows, hunting for Arhan in the dark. No matter how thick Murphy's hide has gotten, there's always a weak point. Arhan's blade finds it, driven hard into the neck. Murphy's eye flares as the strike lands. A second slash rips past a heartbeat later, steel flashing beside Murphy's skull. It should have slowed him. Then why hasn't it? His eye is already changing, slitting into something reptilian. Naturally, he doesn't wait for an answer. He comes in low, both blades leading, aimed for the back of Murphy's skull this time. Somewhere behind him, someone can't believe what they just saw. He dodged that, even half blind. Murphy twists clear of the strike. Of course, his claw comes down anyway, faster than the dodge should allow. Arhan's world tips upside down for a moment, eyes wide, already bracing. Then it lands. Where did that come from? A burst of red energy catches him from behind, whipping his head forward. Arhan screams, blood splattering his face as the slash tears through everything around him. Another blade flashes through the dark, and this one connects clean. Then Everyone quiet, just debris drifting, one scream dying into the ruined yard. Turns out one punch nearly ended it. Arhan grits his teeth, sweat stinging, blood at his mouth, gasping through it. Just one punch. But he's not done yet. Murphy stands over him, sword low, staring down at the boy he just flattened. Now the blinded beast wants payback. I'll make him pay for that, Murphy snarls, blade gripped white knuckle tight. The growl builds into a roar, then tears into a scream, hand clawing the air. Rain washes over a sword stuck dead in the ground, blood pooling around the blade. The pain of the blinding takes hold, Murphy's growl turning ragged, one hand clawing his own skull. Arhan holds his blade close, bracing for whatever comes next. One red eye glows through matted hair, fangs bared, claws dripping blood. The roar cracks the air, and his aura explodes into a wall of light. He plants his stance, sword raised, aura pouring down like rain. Arhan stays hooded and still, watching the monster take shape. His hand trembles. Blinding him was supposed to help, so why is he only getting worse? His strength feeds off savagery now, so what happens if it lands even once? Every instinct screams, run, but living to fight tomorrow means standing his ground tonight. Murphy lunges first, clawed gauntlet leading, the whole night compressed into one strike. Arhan doesn't retreat, cutting straight through that same explosive space, robe snapping in the blast. When the dust settles, it's Arhan smiling, cold and steady, not the monster. Meanwhile, the sky clears into something else, mist pulling back to reveal a whole city. This is the free city of Cloud, and it's already lost its freedom. Someone had to bleed for that, and it's him, wrists bound, hauled up on a rope. They string him up in the Firma arena and throw him into fight after fight, life or death. He wades through oceans of blood just to survive. His face stays in shadow, no darkness thick enough to hide what he's become. Then the tower stands over the wreckage, and nothing else is left. Now, a body drags behind a horse through a silent crowd, blood trailing the cobblestones. So the rider hauls his reins, horse rearing, and shouts for every eye in the square. This is what happens to assassins, he tells them all. An armored officer crows over the kill, calling it the traitor's pathetic end. He orders the crowd to burn the sight into their minds. Then he rides among them and forces every head down. A boy in the crowd watches, teeth clenched, swallowing the scream in his throat. He says nothing. What does a kid do with hate like that? Now the memory jumps to a dim alley. Two men huddled, one shaking with fear. Down the road, a guard snaps around at a sudden sound in the dark. The prisoner they think is helpless stands there with a hidden dagger in his bound hands. 3 quick strokes and the rope falls away. Well, one of his captors just stares, eyes hollow with defeat. Nothing more I can do, he admits. He drives the guard off his feet, sending him flying over the rooftops near the clock tower. The body crashes down in a burst of dust and noise. He leaps after him, blade flashing, fury cracking through his tattered cloak. Somewhere close, something else bears a mouth of jagged fangs in the shadows. What is that thing? Honestly, the rage in him hasn't cooled with the years. He screams into the rain, not afraid to die like trash in some alley. Then he looks up and whatever rides toward him steals the rest of his words. He stands over the man who broke him, dagger raised. He refuses to bow to power and do nothing. Not this time. Blood's on his teeth now. Now he stands over the crowd gathered before the guillotine. Citizens of crowd, don't bow, he calls out. He tells the crowd to show the world they still have the will to fight. Then he strikes as the last word lands. 2 men in the crowd go rigid, shock hurtling fast into anger. Turns out the memory's words are already climbing up his own throat. If they try to strip away your rights, Arhan snarls, fist shaking at his side. He grips the sword hilt, the same warning burning through him now. No one insults you and gets away with it either. His hand tenses, ready to draw. Bold letters flare across the blade. Resist! He turns that will on the hulking shape in front of him, red eyes glowing in the dark. Is this even Murphy anymore? The blade comes down. His blade opens Murphy wider this time, blood arcing through the dark. The wound doesn't even register on the thing anymore. The assassin's memory answers back, furious and low. This city stopped being free the moment it let monsters rule. His next cut lands on that same breath. Meanwhile, 2 watchmen freeze on the ridge above, catching sight of the fight below. A masked swordsman and a monster trade blood in the pouring rain. Neither backs down. An old memory won't let him look away, not for a second. One more drop of blood hangs suspended in the air between them. Don't submit, the memory commands, and Arhan meets the next strike head on. Blood sprays through the rain with every swing that follows. Turns out the old lesson fits this fight too. Even in fog too thick to see your own hand, you keep moving. His blade flashes through the dark like it's answering the thought. Keep moving forward, he grits out, teeth clenched against the pain. Blood erupts beside his face as the blade cuts clean through. 1 more inch, that's all he needs. Now, just when the fight tips his way, the ground shifts under new weight. Murphy's arm swells past anything human, thick as a felled tree. Is this even a man anymore? A young guard loses his voice mid-gasp. The woman beside him grips the rail white-knuckled. For one heartbeat, neither of them moves. Arhan and the wild-haired brute lock eyes, both waiting for the other to break first. Somewhere past them, a hooded shape watches from a ridge, a dark castle looming through the mist. Then Murphy goes down. Arhan ends up on top of the severed arm, monstrous even in death. Is it actually over? Blood drips from his hand as he looks down at the beast beneath him. His eyes stay locked and sharp, still hunting a threat that's already gone. A burst of light tears up from underneath him and throws him backward through the air. His hand snaps up on instinct before he even lands. So two of his people reach him first, hauling him upright by the arms. He's clutching his own chest, teeth gritted against something deeper than the fight itself. Behind them, a mark flares once on the dark wall. Then it fades. Meanwhile, back in the memory, a crowd presses close from behind, one hand thrust into the rain. A fist rises out of the crush, and a ragged voice starts the chant again. Between two dark shapes, there's nothing now but rain and scattered blood on the stone. One rebel goes down, hand limp against the wet stone. The man standing over him won't stop shouting the same cry. Tears cut through the blood on his face. Honestly, grief doesn't slow him down at all. His fist goes up again, bloodied, and the rain swallows the words, "For freedom, for freedom." Fists rain down until the assassin's face is nothing but blood and fury. A hooded jailer grins. The crowd stands frozen, horrified. They drag him to the pit's edge and throw him in. Light and rubble chase him down into the dark. Even falling, his eye stays sharp, a thin, cold smirk. He's not done yet. Now, dark shapes streak low across the clouds over the rooftops. This is our crowd, he tells himself. There are more of them every second, blades and wings crowding the sky. A mass of red cracked light rises over him, masked and huge, dwarfing the lone man in white below. For one heartbeat, he holds his ground against it. Then it breaks him. Red slashes tear the dark apart, and he's thrown mid-air screaming, eyes blazing white. Fist raised and wreathed in blue, hood shadowing his face, he vows himself to the deepest dark of crowd. I will carry it with me. Steel flashes red and blue in the black, sealing the vow into the fang. Now his own power turns and breaks against him. Blue light and debris everywhere. My path has been broken, he mutters. Then, nothing. Blood sprays, his white robe tears, and he goes down, still glaring, still blue-eyed, refusing to look away. So the vision fades, and Arhan's still standing. He walks toward camp at dusk, loose runes of light drifting around him. Murphy lies at his feet, tattooed and still, sword fallen from his hand. A jagged pink shard catches the light, one last piece of him. Murphy lies collapsed, blood-streaked, breath ragged, fangs bared, even beaten. Arhan turns his back, sword sheathed, calm and spent. One last look at that scarred, feral face, dust settling over a single glinting eye. Now he grips the glowing blade, silent, staring at nothing. This is the moment the fang's memories are finally completely his. Turns out a vortex of jagged red energy swallows him whole, his face lost to shadow. When it clears, one eye burns blue, a beam of light cutting straight through him. Something in him is different now. I saw it, he thinks. What is this line of blue he's chased for so long? So faint, it always slipped away before, but not tonight. The ground drops out from under him, blue and red light exploding around his fall. Why can't he feel his own arm anymore? The storm settles, and Arhan stands alone in the rain, both hands locked around a blade glowing pure blue. His grip won't loosen. What is this, he wonders, fingers numb around the glow. Somewhere in that same blur, his blade already opened the renegade knight's guard, and Murphy lies broken behind him now, ink and stillness in the mud. Arhan hangs in the wind above it, weightless, just floating there. So the old man's voice rolls out over his bowed hood. Green as he still is, the path now answers to his will alone. Master gives it a name, beginner level swordwalker. No more guessing. Now he builds a whole mountain out of it. The caravan path, he says, bends for nothing. Light cracks open like glass, and a blade-shaped sigil crashes down through the wreckage. This, he says, is the path of steel. Centuries back, people who watched him fight had a name for it too. They called it a line. His younger face still grins at the memory, blue eyes bright with it. Another armored body hits the dirt under him. One more name lost to the count. He hits the ground the second the glow fades, barely able to ask why his body has nothing left. Above him, the ghost grin promises worse still before he's a full swordwalker. Is this really progress, Arhan wonders, or just a less pathetic imitation than before? Meanwhile, back near the manor, a servant spots him first, collapsed, blood and dirt on his cheek, barely the young master she remembers. A torch swings up, and two cloaked shapes step into the light, Fettel and Seolian, out searching in the dark. Someone asks how he even got here, and for once, Arhan doesn't have an easy answer. Now the scene shifts to firelight, then camp at the tree line. Outside a tent, Arhan sits slumped while his neighbors keep watch around him. Seolian stands with a spear, and someone else wipes sweat, still catching their breath from the run. Turns out, relief has a sound. Arhan lets out a long breath, eyes closed, alive, and for now, that's enough. Nearby, someone wipes the sweat from her face and thanks Seolian for patching her up, fist clenched tight around the cloth the whole time. Then she turns back to Arhan and asks the real question. Did he really do all of this alone? Behind her, the renegade knight lies face up in his own blood, white mask cracked, answer enough for anyone who looks. Even Arhan isn't sure. Arhan just scratches his cheek. Well, I got lucky, he says, playing humble. She's not buying it, and up close, that smirk of his says otherwise. But the truth doesn't work that way. Rewind. Blades sparking, rain hammering down, a boy still rough at the edges. Honestly, the talent was never in question. It's the footing, the guard, a dozen habits still half-formed, and yet there he stood, over a renegade knight, twice his years in the blade. A total beginner. That kind of thing doesn't stay quiet for long. Of course Fettel isn't done with him. He steps in close, hood low, looming over the kneeling boy. Perhaps you simply got lucky, he says. Arhan says nothing, dust still settling, fist clenched white. Something in that grin feels like a test, not an insult. Arhan turns the words over. Somehow he thinks he's finally starting to understand why he ended up on this road. He asks Fettel what he meant back there. Fettel just says it's nothing and looks away too fast. Now Celian explains it plain, arms crossed against the gray sky. They're furious, she says, robbed of the punishment they meant to deal themselves, bound by nothing but honor and pretext. Arhan listens from behind the wall, jaw tight. That's how a knight order works. What kind of twisted logic is that? Then the ghost is there, translucent and blue at his shoulder. Didn't I tell you, the old man says, eye sharp and glinting. The time's come, he says, for Arhan to see for himself. Dark streaks tear across the air like blades. Turns out it happens faster than warned. Rain, a struggle, bodies colliding in a blur no one can call. A man flinches at something off the page, teeth gritted. Then Arhan's already there, sword drawn, caught between two cloaked shapes at the gate. Already, he thinks. They're already here. Steel meets steel, one brutal cut too fast to track. Then it's over. A body goes down hard, blood pooling fast, and the armored line keeps closing, spears low, banners cutting through the rain. The knight's eyes burn yellow, teeth bared, sword light flashing overhead. Rain streaks down his shoulder while he stands there unmoving, sword hilt gripped white-knuckled. Silence. Then the sky opens on what's left below. A fighter face down in the mud, pink hair fanned out in the blood, eyes open and still. Fire curls around his fist as he speaks. And sullied the honor of the yellow elephant, he spits. That's the whole charge. That's the whole trial. Well, the vision breaks, and there he is anyway, close enough to touch. Arhan, Fettel, the knight himself, all three soaked in the same rain. Something dark flickers across the space between them, wordless and heavy. No mercy in the march of a furious elephant. The knight sneers, eyes flicking to the sick deer beside him. He stomps once, hard enough to crack the ground. Answer him, he warns, or get trampled. Arhan can barely stand under the weight of it. His own thought scares him more than the knight does. Can he even withstand this? Naturally, somewhere behind them, a voice mutters the rumor already spreading. This one supposedly outclasses Fettel and Celian both. Arhan sets his jaw, sweat cold on his skin. He has to end this himself, somehow. Fettel steps in front of him, smirking like he already knows how this ends. Arhan looks up at him, uncertain. One of the yellow elephant knights spins around, demanding he repeat himself. Turns out, Fettel was a green deer knight once, victorious in 17 duels of honor. Now his eyes go flat and cold. I killed the runaway dog, he says. The name hits the crowd like a slap. Sir Fettel. Arhan can't believe what he's hearing, demanding to know what that even means. Fettel just grins wider, daring anyone to call him a liar. Debris drifts past his dark coat, like the air itself is holding its breath. Arhan reaches out, desperate to grab the words back before they land. He turns sharply instead, hair whipping, bracing for what comes next. Now two yellow elephant knights trade a look under their banner. A decaying relic, one sneers, abandoned by its own master. Somewhere in the dark, another knight just laughs. Then it comes, flat and formal, Knight Fettel the Loyal. Sparks explode against pale armor somewhere close. A promise of what's coming. Fettel just stands there, wrapped in blue flame, and smiles anyway. His eyes burn steady, daring the storm to start. A lone figure watches the town from a rooftop ledge, wind pulling at his cloak. So here's the law behind a duel of honor. Win, and your name stays clean. Lose, and your corpse hangs in the square. For men who live by honor more than life itself, that's the real punishment. Knights ride out to enforce it, banners snapping, hooves thundering past the fence. Somewhere under that same banner, one knight leads the column into the hills. Even more so in this case, Fettel says quietly and lets the silence sit. Arhan just stares, jaw tight, saying nothing at all. Arhan turns on him. Why would he do that? Fettel's jaw only tightens, and he doesn't answer, not yet. Then gold light rips through the dark, and someone near the gate goes rigid. Wings, he breathes. The mark of a sword runner. Arhan's stomach drops. What chance does a mere swordwalker have against that? Fire flares up beside the fence, and for a second, the whole camp holds its breath. A yellow elephant knight doesn't bother softening it. Even if rank isn't everything, you're only a swordwalker, Sir Fettel. Fettel's jaw sets. He says nothing back. Arhan grabs his shoulder, shouting into his face. How do you plan to fight a sword runner? Fettel doesn't raise his voice back. Didn't Arhan say something the day they became neighbors? Memory cuts in, a campfire, alone in the woods at night. Whatever Arhan wished for back then, staying silent now is the exact opposite of it. And it isn't just Fettel's life on the table, it's his honor too. Arhan doesn't care about honor right now. It's obvious, he shouts, Fettel's going to lose. Then he grips his arm, pleading, please, even now, just step down. So Arhan's mind jumps to one option. Tell them the truth that he killed the bandits, not Fettel. What would that confession even undo? He remembers the villagers after, thanking him, calling him young Master Arhan for worrying so much. Turns out that gratitude isn't the whole story here. Further back in memory, Fettel walks forward with his sword, cloak slung over one shoulder, every inch the hero of some old chivalric tale. Maybe God took pity on him, he thinks, facing his own death, and handed him one last chance. The man across from him just smirks, calling it an opportunity of his own. Please, Fettel asks, would you let me chase my dream? The answer comes back cold. You will regret this. Back at camp, tents sit quiet under a rising wind. Then Arhan again, sleeve torn, dust still settling, a faint smirk breaking through. Would telling the truth even matter now? The bandits are already beaten, already forgotten by everyone but him. A boy stares up through the trees, leaves drifting past him in the dark. Beside him towers a cloaked figure, unnamed and unreadable. Somewhere close, a stranger's eyes narrow, tight with tension. Then Fidel turns and says it plainly. I'm sorry, young Master Arhan. Honestly, the camp answers in symbols instead of words. One banner flies across and a spear tip, the other an elephant's head. Wind combs through the tents while the standoff waits to begin. Of course, Mikan doesn't even glance up while he cleans his blade. The knight beside him, sweating, is Ron. Mikan asks if he went too far. Ron doesn't hesitate. Yes, I do. Mikan just tilts his head. Why? Ron doesn't soften the answer. Even a glance shows it. Fettel's body is already eaten through by disease. Within a week, he says, Fettel will be a walking corpse. Mekan's eyes narrow, cold and calculating, already 3 moves ahead. Elsewhere, Arhan turns to a servant with one question. How much do you know about Fettel the Loyal? The servant startles, sword gripped tight in his hand. Pardon? Turns out Mekan claims he knows that dying knight very well. One yellow eye glints under his helm and the story rewinds. Turns out the cadets called him reckless, said the crest would kill him. He took it alone. Then he clawed his way to the peak of a swordwalker anyway. For her sake, he buried 2 blades in a fallen enemy. He walked away, blood-soaked. 17 duels of honor, and he won every one. He shielded her through a battlefield on fire, sword raised against the blast. Later, 500 starving refugees stormed the castle. He held it alone. Now Mekan plants his sword over the name and smiles. It is a truly fitting title, he says. Golden fire wraps his fist, then flares out into wings of flame. As dangerous, he warns, as his own. Then he grins. Tie the corpse to a wagon, drag it to the man's home village. He means to erase whatever honor Fettel has left. Trampling a man of steel, he says, gets him something no one's managed in years. Flame gathers around him, certain now. A second pair of wings is coming. So he turns to Ron, asking what he thinks of it all. Still think there's nothing to gain? He asks, grinning at his own gilded blaze. Smoke and fire swallow the frame, and the memory fades with him. Meanwhile, far off, a manor sits under a bruised sky. Debris still drifts past its walls. Inside, Seolyun sits alone on the edge of a bed, staring out the window. Arhan sits with his head in his hands, hollowed out. Then the ancestor flickers into view beside him, blue and sharp-voiced. He's got something Arhan doesn't want to hear. Seolyun looks down, unable to shake his face. That man, Fettel, she thinks. Now the ancestor cuts him off. Rank means nothing in a duel. A master swordwalker, a veteran knight, none of it matters once blades are drawn. Then what does? Arhan's jaw clenches so hard his teeth ache. His father chose to fight an enemy he could never beat too. He held that line until the end. Arhan hates watching the strong trample the weak and call it nothing. But what eats at him more is his own weakness. So why can't he protect anyone yet? Now the ancestor doesn't let him drown in guilt. Even if the sword slips away, he says. Even if a swordwalker's blade is never his to eat, the choice should still be the same. The ancestor shows him why through an old memory. I don't care about that, a fanged fighter screams, throwing knives already fallen around him. He's done just protecting himself. He throws his head back, laughing through a fresh red slash across his face. A wound opens across his chest, glowing, and blood drips into the dark. Another memory follows, older and quieter. A bound man kneels in a stone cell, hating himself for trusting the wrong person. A ghostly hand reaches from the dark. He was a fool, he admits, for missing what he truly needed to protect. Someone answers from beyond the frame. Good, he thinks so now. Well, the ancestor's face turns hard and grim. A sword, he tells him, is nothing more than a blade in the end. Listen well, young descendant, because this next part matters. He shows Arhan one more scene. From further back still, a shadowed figure gives an order. Someone else must fight in his place. An armored man stands over a kneeling servant, sealing the custom in words. A champion, in a duel of honor. Meanwhile, back in the present, deep in the forest, Arhan swings wide, dust and leaves kicked up around him. He sheathes and draws again. Faster, tears cutting through the strain on his face. Sunlight breaks through the leaves as his blade catches it, glowing bright above his head. He plants his stance wide, gripping it with both hands, hair whipping back. Then he lets it go. Leaves rip upward through the canopy in one long tearing sound. He's grinning through the sweat, tense tense and strange. What is this feeling even he can't name? He turns toward Fettel, sword still raised. Do you have a moment, he asks. There's something I need to tell you. I can't lower my sword, he says. Not yet, not now. Fettel watches from a distance as Arhan finally forces it out. I have a secret, he says. It might be hard to believe. So he lays it out plainly, sword still gripped tight. It explains how a raw beginner can fight in a dozen styles at once. How he matched a swordwalker like Fatal for even a few seconds. On paper, that shouldn't be possible. Their blades clash again in the memory, sparks bursting white between them. The truth is simpler and stranger. The skill was never his. He ate it, sword and all. Fettel doesn't look surprised, not really. He's watched this growth happen with his own eyes, he says, and calls him young master, same as always. Of course, something sharpens in Fettel's face, sweat beading under a bared teeth glare. So this is a challenge then. Eat my sword, he asks? Two shapes face off in the misting forest light, one gripping a blade at his side. Fettel wants to know if Arhan means to become his champion. Arhan sits alone on a bench while the ancestor's blue shape looms beside him, explaining the old custom. A champion is a warrior who fights for someone else, carrying their honor into the fight as if it were his own. Simple, said like that. So why does it feel like the weight just doubled? So the ancestor lays out the catch. Borrowed honor comes with the full price of defeat too. Fettel's level, he adds, doesn't touch mechans. But look what the man's carrying. Years of hard training, an unshaken belief, footwork worn perfect. That kind of foundation fits the caravan style, built for it. Right now, the old ghost says, it's the only blade sharp enough to clip a swordrunner's wings. A blade drives clean through feathered wings, blood soaking the floor below. Wings clipped. Naturally, the old man can't resist one more jab. An ant taking down an elephant, he grins. Then he wants a real answer, what the young descendant plans to do. Arhan answers flat. Yes, I will fight. He walks the forest path at dusk, his ancestor's ghost beside him. Already he's vowing to inherit Fettel's sword-bound fight. Win it and no one else has to bleed for it. Now Arhan gives the order himself. Hand his own sword over to Sir Fettel. Fettel looks up at the sky, taking it in without a word. As expected, someone murmurs, the young master really is kind. Fettel isn't sure he deserves it, but he asks for one thing first. Just let him watch for a moment. Three of them square off in the clearing, spread wide, waiting. Arhan reaches out alarmed and starts to object. Fettel cuts him off cold. Don't interfere, little gladiator. Fettel's resolve won't bend. He thanks Seol-Yoon for humoring his absurd request. She draws her sword instead, fierce, warning him she won't hold back now. Meanwhile, dust settles over a clash no one quite sees, Fettel's grip tightening on the hilt. Seol-Yoon just asks him not to worry about her. Fettel drops to one knee as two more blades close in. He welcomes it. This is exactly what he's hoping for. Off to the side, Arhan's stomach knots. What is Fettel trying to prove, half dead like this? Honestly, the ancestor watches too, low and intrigued. That girl, worth remembering. Then Arhan steps in himself, sword raised, facing his real opponent. That's the least I can do. Steel meets steel, and both of them flinch wide-eyed. Both blades crash down together, twice the weight he braced for. His opponent's sword is heavy, impossibly heavy, sparks scattering with the impact. How is a dying man hitting this hard? Arhan's glare hardens, and he drives his glowing blade through the clash in one brutal swing. Light explodes where the two edges meet. Seol-Yoon grits her teeth. I underestimated him. She swings back, dark hair whipping, blade grinding hard into his. The clash goes black for a heartbeat. Then someone spots the gap. Our boy finds it first. An opening. The slash lands clean. Seol-Yoon staggers, cloak snapping wide. Of course, she swings right back, hair snapping with the force of it. Steel meets steel in a burst of sparks. Arhan presses through anyway, one eye narrowed against the noise. The next hit connects. She goes flying, clean through the air. Just like that, she's down, smiling as she falls. Debris explodes around a robed figure stepping into the ring, and Arhan can't believe who it is, Sir Fettel. He stands unmarked in the wreckage while the old knight squares up, sword raised for his own turn. When the dust clears, no one can say who actually won. Fettel looks up at the sky through the trees, breathing it in. He tells Arhan his old offer meant more than he ever said. If he'd taken it and stepped back, he might have bought himself a little more time. But winning was never really the point. This is the answer to a question he's carried his whole life, he says. Proof that he existed at all. Meanwhile, Arhan takes it in, head bowed under the weight of it. Is this really what Fettel wanted all along? Something flashes behind him, and his glare turns sharp, unreadable. Wind drags debris across a camp of tents under a bruised sky. Now Mechan's knights ride in under banner, a masked figure leading them forward. One of them checks the sky, wary, wind cutting across his face. Behind him, the leader's hand rests near his hilt, plates of armor catching what light is left. Arhan's eyes narrow. What is this feeling closing in? Through the mist strides an armored swordsman, blade heavy in hand, and the danger in his stride is impossible to miss. Fettel's words from from days back still ring in him. Whatever happens, this duel means something to him too. Arhan's mouth sets into something calm and hard, while a winged shape banks low past the fog. Somewhere close, a stranger's grin spreads, sharp and hungry. Now the column comes into view, a bannered rider leading rank after rank of horse through the mist. That same grin flashes again nearby, waiting on something ugly. What is this power rising in him now, unbidden? What? The word rips out of him before he can stop it. One of Mikan's men mutters that a change like his shouldn't be possible, closing ranks with the others. A fist closes white-knuckled around a small medallion, bracing for whatever comes. Then the words land, flat and final. Sir Fetal won't be coming. Why? Arhan snaps, refusing it outright. That stubborn fool wouldn't run from a fight, so what happened instead? Debris settles over cold armor plate at his back. One of Mechan's men leans in, disbelief curdling into a grin. The thought delights him, that Fetal might finally be dead. Turns out dust keeps drifting over armor that no longer moves. Then time folds back, a few days ago. Blades cross in midair between them. For a moment, Fetal fights like he's found his prime again, smile steady enough to shrug off anything. Kneeling with a hooded stranger, Fetal vows to beat his disease and a trial called the Sword Corridor. Young Arhan watches close beside them. Two fingers rise in a lazy, cocky wager, like the outcome was never in doubt. Meanwhile, the sky turns, and Arhan walks a ridge alone at sunset, cloak trailing behind him. Fetal is already there. Somehow, I thought you'd come, he says, and then, quieter. I'm grateful, young Master Arhan. Arhan stands over him instead, chest heaving, dark marks creeping up his collar. Fetal, unbeatable minutes ago, drops to one knee. Beaten clean, Arhan's eyes burning an eerie blue above him. What reason do you have to be grateful? Arhan finally shouts down at him. Now Fetal looks back on the first words they ever shared. He admits the calm face he wore for death was only a bluff, a performance, nothing more, meant to look strong till the very end. But when the moment truly came, he was scared and alone. He's grateful Arhan stayed, standing quiet beside him under the fading sky. He reaches for Arhan's hand, voice going thin. Because Arhan became his neighbor in these final moments, he says he isn't alone. Arhan's head drops, tears falling, jaw clenched hard. Challenge, he chokes out. Didn't you call it the proof you existed? Fetal leans his head against Arhan's shoulder, spent. Young Master Arhan, he murmurs. Nothing else needed. My twilight ends here, Fetal says. But Arhan, he adds, is the dawn only just risen? So they stand together on the cliff, shadows stretching long behind them. Fetal returns to an old secret, one Arhan told him long ago. That's why, he says, and trails off. Fetal holds his sword out, smiling through the pain, and asks Arhan to take it. Arhan reaches out crying and closes his hand around the hilt. So, with pleasure, Arhan answers, sealing it like a vow. Fetal's last wish comes out soft, his breath already failing. Turns out the sky doesn't care. It burns orange, then fades to ash and silence. Arhan walks the dark path alone now, the memory blurring behind him. His face twists, wet with tears and rage held tight. My gentle neighbor Fetal, he thinks. The words nearly break him. One last, faint smile lingers on Fetal's face. At peace despite it all. Two figures fade into a sunlit ridge, an era quietly ending. His blade lies abandoned in the dust, pieces scattering like fallen leaves. Now Arhan turns away, just darkness and ash still in the air. Back in the present, an armored knight offers a mocking salute. Seems he's finally dead, he sneers. A fitting end for a nobody. Behind him, soldiers eye a distant spire. They grumble, wishing they'd gotten the chance to make the boy watch them unfurl their wings. Arhan listens, jaw tight, eyes narrowed to slits. Luck, they call it, that Fetal died before they could turn him into a spectacle. Is that what passes for mercy here? Somewhere, a voice declares the duel already won. Method be damned. The law never cared for life or death, it says. Only who's left standing. Hollow words, nothing more. Arhan's eyes blaze as he stares Mechan down over the corpse. Hand over Fetal's body, he snaps, done asking twice. What claim does a scavenger have on the dead? Mechan just grins through the purple flame, armor humming gold. He belongs to me now, the knight says. Arhan doesn't blink. He refuses, flat and final. The duel isn't finished, he tells him, blue current snapping to life around his shoulders. Now letters of light spell out his new title, as Sir Fetal's champion. Champion of a dead man. What does that even mean? Somewhere close, a brown-haired knight watches, smiling like he knows something. Arhan just stands there, blue energy coiled tight around his blade. Fire swallows a body whole deep inside the blade. Fetal's memories spill open before him. A young Fetal sits at a card table, sharp-eyed knights drinking and betting around him. One senior leans in. What is it? Fetal asks, caught off guard. I felt this a while, the man says, but you're awfully rigid for someone so young. Fetal's face flushes, but he holds his ground. This kind of drinking and gambling, he starts stains a knight's dignity. The dirty jokes don't help either, he adds, chin up despite the sweat on his brow. Of course, nobody wants a lecture over cards. Enough already, one man groans, waving him off. Man, you really are an idiot, another sneers, eyes narrowed close. You don't need to come to our meetings anymore, the loudest one shouts. Fetal just stands there, silent, jaw tight, and takes it. Turns out getting mocked doesn't teach Fetal much. Shortly after, he corners a different table of knights. Unacceptable seniors, he tells them, arms crossed, same stubborn look on his face. He gives the very same speech. Drinking, gambling, singing in public, none of it fits a knight, he says. He even brings up his own reckless youth, asking them for some restraint. Honestly, they weren't listening at all. One man slips a card from his sleeve mid-sentence. "Thanks for pointing that out, Junior," they say, laughing, and keep right on cheating. Then the mood changes. This time, a different answer comes. Quieter, almost sad. "It couldn't have been easy to say something like that," a young knight tells him, gesturing, oddly moved. "That kind of fire," another says, grinning wide, "is exactly why, at your age." Then something slices fast and close, cutting the moment clean in half. He means it this time. "Come to the next meeting," he says, hand raised like a real invitation. Fettel just watches, bandages fresh on his neck, face giving nothing away. Now the memory shifts. Another night at the tavern. A fellow knight slides him a mug while a couple of seniors size him up. Talent, one scoffs like it's an insult, and Fettel just grips the mug tighter. Turns out that insult lights a fuse. His blade rips the air in one blinding cross-cut, swing after swing, night after night. Will this conviction of his ever count for something? Honestly, that grind reshapes him. Muscle tightens at the hip with every strike he lands. When he finally turns, one sharp eye catches the light, a faint smirk breaking through the exhaustion. Meanwhile, wreckage follows. Chairs lie overturned, embers drifting, two bodies sprawled where the sparring finally breaks them. Fettel lies in the shadow, one arm out, blood matting his hair. Of course, not getting cut from the ranks means learning to play a part. He bows his head low before men who barely notice him, forcing himself into the role. Even the menial chores, he grins and says, "Just give me the word." Shadows again this time. The next job comes with an armored escort handing him a bound, hunched figure to guard. He swears he'll carry it out honorably, like a real knight. Well, honorable doesn't quite cover what this job is. He leads a masked crew down a dark alley, a body-heavy sack slung over one shoulder. A blonde woman toys with his hair, laughing, while his smile hides an acceptance closer to denial. Alone in a dim room, he sits with nothing but self-doubt for company. Years fold past, quiet and grinding, self-deprecation becoming just part of who he is. He ends up guarding a wealthy noble family, the manor rising grand and columned ahead of him. His name alone earns trust before he says a word. A young woman walks beneath sun-dappled trees, murmuring that if it's Fettel, he can be trusted. A blade streaks past close as a warning, but she only smiles, hair loose in the wind. "Stay by my side and protect me forever," she asks him plainly, and he looks aside, quiet. Is a promise like that even his to make? She just laughs anyway, certain his silence already said yes. Everyone already loves her, so even as a noble, the whole territory adores her, cheering her on like one of their own. In the memory, young Fettel breaks up drunks picking fights. That's the most action this job ever gives him. It's nothing like the knight's life he once dreamed of. His third-rate rank hasn't budged, not yet, but something's coming. Then a demonstration lands clean, sparks flying, and a young woman down the street can't look away. She gasps, hands pressed to her face, eyes bright with something like awe. Moments later, she's clapping beside him outright, a small boy peeking shyly from behind his cloak. Now near her, none of it stings the same way. Their hands find each other, sunlight warm on both of them. He grins, sure those old worries don't matter anymore. He has no idea how wrong that'll prove. Turns out, calm doesn't last. Fire swallows the estate whole, the family banner burning atop the roof. Overnight, her family falls into ruin. Meanwhile, the memory folds in on itself, bright and cruel together. He pictures her once calling his name across the garden without a second thought. Now, dressed as a maid in her own fallen house, she can't do that anymore. She can barely ask why he's still there. Protecting our family? He thinks bitterly. His hand presses to his chest like there's still a family left to protect. Well, the family can't pay his salary anymore, can't even give him quarters worthy of a knight. So why does he still stay by her side? She needs to know. He just grips the hilt tighter. No answer needed. Her eyes go soft. She reads the answer anyway. Naturally, the years slide by after that. The scared girl in the ruined house grows up again, sunlit and smiling. She's a noble woman now. Fettel never once leaves her side. In one memory, he just holds her from behind, ash drifting past, nothing left to say. He's Fettel the loyal now, and that settles it. "She needs me," is the whole of his answer, hand over his heart. That's when she finally breaks down, tears streaming free. Somewhere in a storm-gray village, a stranger's voice thanks Sir Fettel too. One more debt he never asked to be owed. The image lifts away after that, her light rising while he stands watch below. What happens to a man who gives everything to a promise? Then the whole memory cracks to black. Then Arhan snaps back to the present, Fettel's resolve humming through his own blade. It feels like it was always there. Why does someone else's loyalty suddenly feel like his own conviction? The duel of honor, he says, isn't over yet. Arhan's hand steadies at his hilt as raw energy crackles off the cloaked figure standing across from him. A title rides in on the wind, Knight of the Yellow Elephant, Meccan. No warm-up, no warning, just a flat, formal challenge. He wants this duel. Arhan glances back, tense, as a huge shape looms behind him without a word. What is he not saying? Across the field, the figure only turns away, back to the crowd, silent. Now, behind that single glowing eye, Meekin is doing the math on the boy in front of him. This kid's presence, he decides, carries the same weight as that bastard Fidel's. Across from him, Arhan's jaw sets tight, his own blue current rising to answer the stare. His fading excitement flares back to life all at once, something worth his time, finally. He grins wide beneath the mask and takes the challenge gladly, like a gift. Meanwhile, the mountains darken under a dusk sky as word goes out for a judge to oversee this duel of honor. Mekan smirks, slow and sure of himself. Arhan doesn't smirk back. The judge lays out the terms plain and simple. This fight ends only when one side surrenders or can't go on any longer. If he wins, Mekan's terms come out one cruel line at a time. "I'll take Fatal's corpse," he says first. Mercy, he calls it, before he adds the rest. Every limb cut off, fed piece by piece to the wild beasts. Mekan asks if he's even ready for what's coming. Arhan says nothing back. He just watches, eyes narrowed, waiting his turn. Of course, Mekan has one more vow before they step apart. He'll spare his life, he says, but only after taking both his arms as an act of mercy. How many boys has he said that same line to already? Then the mockery lands clean. A foolish dream like that, he grins, is only a boy's privilege. Now the duel breaks loose all at once. Arhan and Mekan launch at each other, blades first, while the judge clears out of the way fast. The judge calls the count, 10 steps back, both of them, no exceptions. The duel starts the moment they're set and ready, nothing before. Honestly, Arhan's mind goes back to the training that got him here. He swung that sword over and over until his arms felt like they'd tear right off. He grips the blade now, steady, lit by the last light of dusk. A sword towers over him now, vast enough to dwarf the man standing beneath it. His own blade, though, is no different from the needle or the fang he's already carried inside him. Upright enough that no wind, however hard it blows, can ever bend it. Precisely because of that, more than anything he's ever faced, something inside him locks into place. His grip tightens around the hilt, the blade catching the very last of the light. He lifts the sword level with his eyes and holds it there. Whatever comes next, he means to meet it standing. Now behind him, the ancestor's ghost speaks low. Anyone who climbs past a sword runner earns their own values. Refine the sword if those values are upright. Crush someone else's convictions if they're not. Turns out that's not just theory. Somewhere in the mist, they bind a man for his convictions and burn them out of him. What climbs out the other side is hollow. One glowing eye, no face at all. What does it take to make a man into that? He can't just stand by and watch it happen. Then there's only one way, the ghost answers. Accept Fettel, whole. So, the knight sneers at his stance and calls him a scrawny novice who's had lessons. He draws his blade and waves Arhan in. "I'll teach you," Arhan answers, flat. The knight barely gets a word out before Arhan's already closing in, sword level, eyes locked. Arhan leaps, blade raised overhead, blue light trailing the swing. Mekan drops to meet him, hand out. They collide in midair in a burst of gold light that tears the sky open. Well, the ground splits under the shockwave. Blades lock, straining. Mekan doesn't understand it. Mekan's thrown clean through the shattering ice, crying out. Arhan's already there, cape snapping, sword coming down again. Mekan barely gets his blade up, stunned at the weight of a single strike. A blade streaks for his eye. He twists clear. Their swords catch again, sparks flying. Arhan launches another charged strike, and Mekan answers with a blast of raw lightning. It swallows him whole, hair whipping, body thrown backward through the crackling air. Debris cuts past his face, and for a second he wonders, is this what Fettel's steadiness feels like? Then he's airborne again, sword swinging through a burst of white-blue light. It crashes straight into Mekan's raised gauntlet, blade against steel, neither one giving an inch. Now the impact fades to blur. Dust and debris keep falling. The clash hangs unresolved. So steel meets steel, and the ground splits open under it. Mekan rams his own blade into the dirt just to stay on his feet. He looks up grinning, blood on his teeth. Arhan holds his ground across the clearing, sword low and steady. Somewhere under the pain, it registers. That brat just pushed him back. Now, the next blow throws him clean off his feet, sword spinning out of reach. Impossible, he tells himself. He is Mia, chosen by the heavens. Heaven doesn't lose to some nameless swordwalker. He drops to one knee, staring up at the shape looming over him. Now that our swords have clashed, he starts and never finishes the thought. Arhan is already airborne, blue lightning crawling up his blade. Your sword is soft, he says. Soft next to Sir Fettel's unwavering nature. The blades meet again, and this time neither one gives an inch. For one breath, Mekan kneels in the mud, and Arhan stands over him, sword hanging loose. Then the air changes. Arhan looks up. What is that? Well, Mekan climbs back to his feet and the sneer returns. His fist closes tight around the hilt, knuckles white, bracing for whatever comes next. Somewhere behind his eyes, an old lesson surfaces. A tower with no foundation falls in one gust of wind. It's Fettel's memory. A young knight humiliated by his own lord for skipping the fundamentals, grinding that shame into his fists instead of running from it. That stubborn, ordinary sword is exactly what Arhan needs right now. Naturally, gold light rips out of Mekan and swallows the clearing whole. The only thing that decides anything is the realm, he roars. Wings of golden fire tear open behind him. Is this what he's been hiding? The blast throws Arhan backward through smoke and flame. By the time it clears, Mekan is already gone from where he stood, closing the distance like a ghost. Meanwhile, dust settles over the broken ground. Nothing moves. Arhan touches his own jaw, thoughtful even now. It was a short stretch of training, he thinks, but it's borne fruit. In his mind, the ancestor is already moving on. He's talking about the needle and the fang Arhan swallowed before, and about the very different sword now settling into his hands. Turns out the needle and the fang were just anomalous luck, bent toward a boy with none. But Fedel's sword is different. Plain to look at, built too stubborn to ever break. That's exactly the memory Arhan needs right now. In the memory, the ancestor blasts an armored knight back with fire, roaring, "Enough, descendant." Then it's gone, and Arhan just walks it off, wind dragging dust across the cracked ground. Now Meccan spreads his wings, and fire rolls off him in sheets. Arhan feels it like a blade dragged across his whole body. Is this a sword runner? Arhan's first real question of the fight. Let's not get impatient, Meccan sneers back. If this man has wings, Arhan tells himself, he still has the caravan blood in him, and the sword's memory besides. The clash throws Arhan backward through smoke and embers, blood already on his lip. Meccan lunges after him, fire bursting from both fists. He drops through the flamelit trees to finish it. What is that? Arhan freezes, blood cold. Why he's still standing, wrapped now in a wash of gold light, Arhan can't explain. Someone's behind him. The thought lands half a second too late. A blade whips past before he can turn. He feels the wind of it cut straight across him. So Arhan drops to his knees, blood pouring from the cut, Meccan's wings blazing gold above him. Somehow, the blade never cut all the way through. Meccan sounds almost impressed, calling it good instinct. Then the sneer returns. That instinct, he warns, is only going to make the pain worse. Well, the dread in the air says Meccan means it. That flicker of instinct just bought Arhan more pain, not less. Meccan looms over him now, armor lit gold from within. Arhan kneels in a spreading pool of his own blood, sword the only thing holding him up. Ugh, is all he can manage. Sword runner, the ancestor says, standing over him. Just like the name says, it lets a fighter run like he's gliding through everything in his way. At that level, fighters move fast enough to leave only after images behind. People call them ghosts of the battlefield. A sword runner, the ancestor finishes, is what's standing over Arhan right now. Meanwhile, another silhouette rises out of gold fire and smoke somewhere else. The fight is about to get more crowded. Now the ancestor's voice cuts through the haze. Has he really gone soft after one win? It demands. Blood runs down Arhan's chin. He grips the sword tighter anyway. Get a grip, foolish descendant, the old spirit barks. There's only one way left for Arhan to win, the ancestor warns. Meccan's blade blots out the sky above him. The vice captain calls his swordplay solid, almost admiringly. Then he shrugs it off. Nothing matters before the realm. Up close, Meccan calls him a foolish boy. Drop the sword, he orders. His blade settles on the back of Arhan's skull, while his fist ignites gold. You've already done everything you can, he says, almost gentle in his contempt. Meanwhile, the blade lifts over Arhan's bowed head as the sky turns to storm. Why hesitate, a voice mocks, when this fight was lost before it began. No mercy in that voice. And now Meccan says, that's finally proven. Off to the side, a masked soldier mutters that staying alive matters more than pride. Arhan kneels in his own blood, hilt still locked in his fist. Is this really how it ends, he wonders? Then the blade falls. The world splits into a single scream. So everything goes white for a heartbeat, a scrap of torn cloth caught in a fist. Whose hand is this, he wonders, gripping a cloak he's never worn. Then just a hand, clenched hard around a dark cloak, holding something older than this fight. Turns out the memory runs deeper than his own life. Fedel's first real opponent surfaces, the young master of a baronial house. Every one of his guards is a trained swordsman, Daisy warns as they walk the stone halls together. Sir Fedel, she says, is one of the few precious people she has left. She doesn't want to lose him too, she begs, gripping his sleeve. He holds her hand for one still moment before the memory jumps. At some society party, after her family's name had already fallen, a nobleman raises his hand and strikes her down. Naturally, Fedel's cloak snaps as he turns from her, jaw set. I will return, he vows, and means it. His dark hair catches the light as he walks away. Now he reaches the estate gates as dusk settles, a groom already holding the reins. Fedel stands beside the horse with a small knowing smile, like a man who already knows how this ends. Silhouetted against the dark, he draws his sword and speaks his oath. More than my honor, he swears. He's her knight now, bound to the county of Crossel. Then he stands ready, blade raised, eyes fixed forward. Nearby, two soldiers glance back, uneasy. Something is coming. Their commander's mouth falls open, half warning, half gasp. The memory lets go, and Arhan is back on his knees in the mud. Something in him has shifted though. Blue light rises around him, sharp as a drawn blade. Slowly, he gets back up. That was my first duel of